Friday. This is after undercover agents drawn from the Elite Crime Research and Intelligence Bureau and the DCI Nairobi Regional Headquarters narrowed down on the suspect identified as Zakaria Nyaura Obadia. Using digital forensics, the sleuths working with cybercrime experts in the DCI National Forensic Laboratory placed the thug at the scene of the crime scientifically and went after him in Mukuru Kayaba informal settlement. According to DCI boss George Kinoti, the suspect escaped their dragnet by a whisker via a sewer duct in the densely populated settlement. Kinoti said the suspect was also positively identified by his wife and other relatives in his rural home, sexually assaulting the victim in the widely shared videotape. Now, Nairobi gubernatorial aspirant Tim Wanyonyi has castigated the assault and violence unleashed on a female motorist by a section of city Boda Boda riders. During celebrations of International Women's Day, Wanyonyi called on security agencies to trace, arrest and prosecute all culprits who were involved in the heinous act. He noted that while the Boda Boda sector has grown into an income-generating sector, the lack of regulatory framework in the sector has seen it metamorphosize into a security threat. Now, former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko has been banned from entering the United States over his alleged involvement in significant corruption. The U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, in addition, said that his wife Primrose Mwelu Nyamu Mbuvi, their daughter Saumu Agnes Mbuvi and Salma Wanjiru Mbuvi, and his minor child are also ineligible to enter the country from now on. In a statement, the U.S. Department of State accused Sonko of receiving bribes and kickbacks in exchange for the award of government contracts. Blinken found the state that the designations are affirmed the commitment of the United States to combating corruption and supporting the rule of law while strengthening democratic institutions in Kenya. Now, the Interpol headquarters president Ahmed Nasser Al-Raisi has lauded Kenya for its leading role in the fight against global criminal syndicates. Al-Raisi exuded confidence that due to the country's strategic position as Africa's gateway, Kenya was best placed to deal with transnational organized crime affecting the region. He said this during an evening meeting in Lyon, France, that was attended by Kenya's ambassador to the French Republic, Portugal, Serbia, and Holy See, Professor Judy Wahongo. Also in attendance was DCI Director George Kinoti, who is currently on international assignment at the Interpol headquarters, where he is representing Africa in the Executive Committee. Others present were Mustafa Ibrahim, an official at Kenya's embassy in France, and DCI Executive Advisor Mohamed Roba. Now, the government has deployed choppers to deliver KCPE papers in the border examination centers in the northeastern counties of Wajir, Garissa and Mandera counties. Addressing the press, Garissa County Commissioner, Northeastern Regional Commissioner James Kianda said that choppers are being used to deliver the papers in far-flung centers along Kenya, Somalia and Ethiopia borders. Kianda said that among the centers whose papers are being delivered by air include Tulugo, Galamagala, Laibo, Kulan in Garissa, eastern parts of Habaswein in Wajir and Arabia Takaba in Mandera. The government has deployed the National Police Reservists in the volatile areas of Baringo in a major operation to eliminate bandits. Rift Valley Regional County Commissioner Mohammed Malim said the Ministry of Interior had dispatched 3 armored personnel carriers and 80 National Police Reservists to Baringo North and South to quell the heightened insecurity in the region. In what appeared to be a shoot-to-kill order, Malim ordered the security personnel not to spare the bandits. The Minister of Interior says it will not be business as usual in areas within Baringo County where lives have been lost in the frequent banditry attacks. Tuesday at Muchungoi sub-county, a security operation was launched dispatching heavy security machinery and deploying 18 National Police Reservists. Areas of Kasiela, Sinoni and Lamaiwe in Baringo South are already inhabitable. And Meru Governor Kiraitu Murungi has announced that his Devolution Empowerment Party has joined Azimio la Umoja. Kiraitu said his decision to back Raila's 5th stab at presidency in this year's election was based on research, talking to opponents and listening to confidential reports. During the meeting in Meru, the first-term Meru governor exceeded confidence that Raila Odinga would clinch the 2022 presidential race come August. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nyeri.
I hope you don't believe that Hustler is a poor person. Hustler is a person who is making his a living through hard work. The group of leaders we are having now, Kenyans, listen, the chemical composition is the same. You will mold them to ODM, then NASA, you mold them to Kanu, mold them to Jubilee, mold them to any other different color sometimes, but the chemical composition is the same.
It's not about me as Nurdin Haji, but it's about the constitution that I swore to protect. So when individuals attempt to hoard those powers and they want to be investigators and also prosecutors, then of course I have to defend that position because that position is in the constitution and that's what Kenyans wanted.
I'll tell you what happens is that when you ignore court orders, you're creating and quoting anarchy. Then you create a very dangerous precedent.
A story is told of the first president of the country who also went to visit Madare, presidential tour. Yeah? And of course, he went to this place and he introduced himself. So one of the enemies says, oh, hata wewe kuna jina kama yangu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Okay, in the middle of the week, Wednesday, and it's already building up on Mombasa Road today. It looks really good on the southern bypass. There's an option for you. For the early birds, how about you catch that worm where there's no traffic today? And that's on the southern bypass. Jogger Road is looking really good, as is Lunga Lunga. That normally gives us a trouble spot at around 7 o'clock. But for now, it looks good. The Kamkunji roundabout, that started off really early, getting into the city, but nothing too painful just yet. Thika Superhighway, free and clear all the way into the city. A bit of a hold up right there, just past the Pangani underpass. But Limuru Road looks really good, as does Kiambu Road. Coming out of Westlands won't be too painful right now. A little bit of traffic on Waiyaki Way, but then coming out from James Gishuru, not too terrible this morning. It looks like folks have started early. And if you haven't yet, now is the time to do it. And if you have not, even later, we'll have some words in terms of how you can be helped. Okay, let's talk this morning. We want to keep things moving on Wednesday. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
SpiceFM, Malindi. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This
Okay, how are you? How are you doing? Today, what has happened now? My papers are falling. Today is the 9th day of March 2022. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Ndu Okoh,
Yes?
are you well?
Yes, thank you. Good morning.
Are you well?
Yes.
Good morning to you.
Good morning.
It's good to have you in the show.
Asante sana.
How was the night?
Tumultuous.
Ups and downs, round and round.
Yeah.
Life.
For the first time in a long time, I tossed and turned and was not able to sleep. I usually sleep like a baby.
What? City asked that question. What did you eat last night? What did you have for dinner?
I actually didn't. Maybe that's the problem.
Yes.
Didn't have dinner.
When did you eat your last meal?
Maybe about 4 o'clock. Yeah.
It's because if you're not accustomed to it, my friend, you will not sleep.
What time do you normally have your dinner?
6:30.
See?
What time do you normally have your lunch?
Maybe 1:30 if I do.
So the 4 o'clock was an in-between.
Yeah, because I was doing something else.
And by
then I
6:30 you were
realized,
still
okay, I need
full.
to eat. And at 6:30 I was like, what am I even trying to eat now? I went to bed.
Were you hungry at night?
Nope.
It doesn't present itself as hunger. You can feel hungry. Other times you will not necessarily be hungry, but you'll be fatigued, you'll be restless.
When the stomach is empty,
Oh, voila.
it tells me to get up.
I get up at 1 in the morning and look for a
That's
sandwich.
like when the stomach is full, it tells you to
To sing,
When it is empty,
it tells you get up. That is exactly what you were living the proverb. This morning we can clearly say that, yes, that proverb, what was it from? Libya.
Morocco.
Was it Morocco? It's a Moroccan one. Yes, yes. Welcome to the Situation Room, everybody. We'll have various conversations today. What we're going to be discussing, we'll be reflecting what's happening in the country and what's happening in the world. Yes, we will do that. Let's begin with COVID-19 in numbers, shall we?
All right, let's look at it. Let's start off in Kenya, where we're looking at still a lower number of population having been vaccinated. 21 new cases of COVID in the country. Again, a relatively low positivity rate, even lower than what we've seen in the past couple of days, 0.3%. This is taken from a large sample size of 6,277. 0.3%, very, very good numbers. Again, another day of 0 deaths having been reported over the last 30 days. So we're looking at pretty good numbers. This is a good thing. Again, the calls are for when we see this, because we know that data fuels or should fuel decisions. Here we are looking at the numbers. We are looking at the reality. It's about time now that the mask mandate, for example, is reviewed and the decriminalization of non-mask wearing, is brought about. Because here, for how long? Or are there other things that are going on that are really too high on the priority list than to say, okay, there was high prevalence of COVID. Now we've seen that the positivity rate has reduced significantly and has maintained that for some time. Of course, we hear that they're looking at maybe another wave coming about April, May. Sure. But for now, where we are and where we have been for the last 7 to 8 months, how about we look at this? And that's the question coming from very many quarters. We'll hear from MOH when we'll hear from MOH. Okay?
They'll tell us.
They'll tell us.
When they tell us.
When they tell us.
Okay.
We'll wait for that.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so let's look at something else. Interestingly enough, coming out from the rest of the world, having been reported that... So when we looked at COVID 2 years ago, when it hit the first time, it was clear what the symptoms were. You would have a headache, you would have fever, you would have this unrelenting feeling of flu and cold, a lot significantly heavier than what you would feel with a normal cold, right? And then it would exacerbate to respiratory failure, etc., etc.
Except it wasn't always the case.
Exactly.
Like the first couple of cases in Kenya.
People were non-symptomatic.
Yep.
Exactly. As we started to see this progress, then it was clear that from certain symptoms, you knew what you were battling with. Now, researchers have discovered something different. Blood clots in the lungs. They found countless additional smaller clots in other organs as well. They distinguish between clots and thrombosis, for example. There are findings now pointing that more than 150,000 people who had survived COVID infections compared with millions of people who are of the similar age in other features who did not develop COVID-19. So they're looking at these two groups of people. And it was interesting to note that of all of them that had COVID and that made it, there was evidence of these clots. So they're looking at it now as a significant symptom of COVID and an after effect having survived COVID. That would be likely that some of these folks, they would be able to trace these clots within the respiratory system. So that's interesting that what they're looking at there. So it was an interesting thing to note. Getting closer and closer to 450 million cases of COVID around the world. And that's about the size of it for now.
Yep, keep it right here. We are live streaming the show on SpiceFM KE, YouTube and Facebook. And let me just tell you what we're going to be discussing at 8 o'clock. We've been talking about the circular economy with the Kenya Private Sector Alliance for a while now. And this is where we say you're producing plastics. The plastics are used as packaging. Then they go into the market. Who collects, who recycles? The 3 R's: recycling, reuse, or
There's a song.
Recycling,
reusing.
use and receive.
No. I keep forgetting it.
There's
There's a song.
There's a third R.
Wait, I'll find it.
It's not reject.
No, sorry.
I don't know. No, it's not reject. Okay. Anyway, so we'll be having two guests in the studio
Reduce.
today.
Reduce, reuse, recycle. Reduce your throwing of plastic waste. Recycle and then
reuse.
yes. It's reduce. There's a song. Reduce, reuse, recycle. I can't
Okay.
forget.
Okay. So those 3 R's. Ebenezer Amadi, who's the program manager for Sustainable Inclusive Business, will be with us, and also Dr. Kevin Desai, who's a PS for the East African Community and Regional Development. They'll be here, and we'll be talking about streamlining legislation towards plastic pollution management. Okay? Those will be with us at 8. Keep it here for that. In the meantime, let's take this quick break. Take a look at the weather. If you are online, time for roll call is coming up shortly. Say hello. Tell us where you are tuned in from this morning, whether you're in Nairobi, around the country, from wherever in the world, including Papua New Guinea, and that very remote place.
The one with 600 people.
Islands. Catman. Who?
Right, that island.
Those ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
My brain is not.
Even if you're in Thordibur, say hello. We'll be saying hello to you shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads. Make some noise. You're listening to Spice FM.
All right, 17 degrees and mostly cloudy in Nairobi this morning. We'll see highs of 28 and lows of 16. Nakuru is clear at 15, highs of 29 and lows of 13, while we're looking at cloudy conditions at 11 in Nyeri, highs of 29 and lows of 11. It's clear at 14 in Eldoret, highs of 27 and lows of 12. And we're looking at partly cloudy conditions in Mombasa, 26. It'll go to highs of 32. 31 will be the high recorded in Malindi today. It's currently 26 and cloudy as well. The clouds are still up in Kisumu at 21. Highs of 30 and lows of 19. It's 16 degrees and partly cloudy in Kakamega. It goes to highs of 32 and lows of 15. Out in Kampala, it's clear at 20. Highs of 29 and lows of 19. While in Dar es Salaam, the clouds as well. 27. Highs of 32. Johannesburg raining this morning at 15. That'll be the low for today. We'll see highs of 21. And it's mostly clear in Lagos at 28. Highs of 34 and lows of 27. At 24, Kinshasa is clear this morning, going to highs of 33. Out in Beijing going into Wednesday afternoon, it's 13 and sunny. Highs of 17 and lows of 3. While it's clear at 2 in Paris. Highs of 16 today. London is mostly cloudy at 9, highs of 13, while at 5, New York still Tuesday night is clear. Coming into Wednesday, we'll see highs of 9 and lows of 3.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It is 20 minutes after 6. The islands are called?
The Chatham Islands.
Okay.
Yeah, Rekuho. Specifically, Rekuho is the traditional name. The Brits came and said, well, we'll call these ones the Chatham Islands.
Okay.
Rekuho.
Okay. So it's just like that place where Ruto was talking the other day. Chatham House.
Chatham House. Shut up.
Okay, so we are live streaming the show, and there are people who are online. Tell us
quite
who.
a number.
Yes.
Another bougie sounding name, Chalby Drive. That's where Andrew Franklin is tuned in this morning, and he says, good morning to you. Good morning, says Job, tuned in Sana. And Grand Mula says, good morning, tuned in. He's asking us to host the University of Nairobi presidential aspirants again. Okay, we'll have a look at that, maybe. Sir Harron.
Who
are these presidential aspirants from the University of
Who are
Nairobi?
the contenders this time? Okay.
Honorable Cyrus Benja. Says he's tuned in this morning. Sir Haran, not in Diboro. He's now in Kisumu. And says, good morning. He says, we are not getting you in Kisumu. Why?
Are you serious?
Is it just you, Aaron? Where are you? Specifically.
Okay.
Collins Wisdom is tuning from DC, as in Washington. David Mogaka says, good morning. Enjoy your day. Benson Mumo tuned in this morning. Abraham, we see you. Good morning as well. Solomon Mugo tuned in from where? Specifically Ikurungu, specifically Ngariama. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We were in as if we never went. Paul Omariba tuned in from Bamburi. And John Amasongole is tuned in as well. Ashley, we see you tuned in from Machakos this morning. Benwa tuned in from Nakuru. Barasa Simuyu is a bit upset. He said neither Ndu nor Eric said good morning to CT today. Okay.
Good morning.
Sorry. CT, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
You all right?
I'm well, thank you.
Super. Baraza, we did the deed. He's tuning in from Hargeisa this morning. Atieno says, can't get us on radio. Another one in Kisumu. Eric, Wagwan. Wagwan.
Okay.
Pete Ongera tuned in from Lukenya this morning. And Stanley tuned in from the view of Mount Kilimambogo. And Bishogore Omokaya, we see you as well. Collins Kipsat tuned in from Eldoret. Another town that I want to visit. Thanks for joining us this morning. Good morning.
Where have you been to in this country?
I've been to many places. I've been many places.
But not
many
Eldoret.
places. I've been to Eldoret, but I want to go, you know? I've passed through, been there one night. I want to go, experience the town.
You want to spend time in Eldoret?
Yeah.
Okay. Nisasawa. City?
Yes.
The day's proverb?
I'm going back to Tunisia.
Okay.
There's a proverb that I had prepared from Tunisia, but I had never mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, before I depart from the northern part of Africa, let me at least, should we say, end on this note. There is no blindness, but the blindness of the heart.
Okay.
There is no blindness, but the blindness of the heart. Allah. Hey. That is deep.
It's very deep.
That's very deep. Hey. Okay. Tunisia. You say.
And with that, we depart from northern Africa. We're now going to move lower down.
So now we're coming sub-Saharan.
We are coming to sub-Saharan Africa.
North of the Limpopo.
They say north of the Limpopo. It's everything right up at the very top. But yes, north of the Limpopo.
Yeah? South of the Sahara, north of the Limpopo.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Let's look at the newspaper headlines. www.standardmedia.co.ke, or you want to get the Standard app, you want to hang with the big boys, go to what? The Google Play Store or Apple App Store.
And
download the Standard e-paper. In the headlines today, it's about Sonko. Sonko. The Nation headline, the fall of Mike Sonko. They have given it extensive coverage. Page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8. The Standard has the story, U.S. slaps travel ban on Sonko and his family, and they've given that coverage on page 15. And then they have also done a bit of an analysis there, how the king of bling lost his shine after painting the town red. And another headline, Sonko cries foul as U.S. issues travel ban. We'll discuss this in greater detail at 7 o'clock and have a debate around it. But here's the thing. The U.S. State Department released a statement yesterday, and they said that this man called Mike Mbuvi Sonko, he is no longer welcome to visit the United States of America. Neither his wife, his daughters, and another child who was unnamed. And they say it is because while in office, Governor Sonko solicited bribes and kickbacks in exchange for awarding government contracts to his associates. That's what the statement read, which worsened the troubles for Sonko, who was impeached on graft claims and is battling a corruption case in court. The statement continued, his actions undermined the rule of law and the public's faith in Kenya's democratic institutions and public processes. It indicated that designation is made under Section 7031C of the Department of State Foreign Operations and Related Programs Appropriations Act 2021. Under this authority, designated officials of foreign governments involved in significant corruption and their immediate family members are ineligible for entry into the United States. As a consequence, Sonko's immediate family, that's his wife Primrose Mwelo Nyamu Mbuvi, their daughter Saumu Agnes Mbuvi, and Salma Wanjiro Mbuvi, and Sonko's minor child will also be affected by the sanctions. The designation means they have also been banned from doing any business with the U.S. These designations reaffirm the commitment of the United States to combating corruption and supporting the rule of law while strengthening democratic institutions in Kenya. We'll continue to use all available tools to promote accountability for corrupt actors in this region and globally.
Yeah. Shocker.
What's the shock?
That they actually did it.
Uh-huh.
Maybe not too much of a shock. Maybe it was a long time coming. It was going to happen.
You know, it's their country.
They can decide who can come in or not. You know?
But the reasons they are giving for the action they have taken, if this was another country, I may even want to debate this at great length. In Kenya, Sonko is being painted as a culprit who has invented what? Corruption, who taking bribes, soliciting. Man.
He's in good company now then.
In this country?
He's in great company.
Who do you leave out? That's the question. Who do you actually leave out?
I'll tell you who you leave out. You leave out people who have not been convicted.
Precisely.
People who have been convicted. Then you have... Look, listen to this statement. These designations reaffirm the commitment of the U.S. to combating corruption and supporting the rule of law while strengthening democratic institutions in Kenya.
Problem there?
Rule of law in Kenya has a judiciary. We have a constitution, we have an institution.
Eric, start first. Innocent until proven
Guilty.
Now, please continue.
We have a constitution that says there's a judiciary. And this is the procedure of taking somebody through the rule of law. Now, has Sonko been convicted?
No.
Of any corruption?
No. He has court cases, but,
they haven't been concluded.
Yes.
Yeah. They haven't even gone through a first round and say, they are going to appeal.
They are going through, mention some of them.
Yeah. So at what point are we saying that by doing this, we are strengthening? And then the statement does not say that Sonko is suspected of. The statement actually condemns him, says, while in office, Governor Sonko solicited bribes and kickbacks in exchange for awarding government contracts to his associates. His actions undermined the rule of law and the public's faith in Kenya's democratic institutions and public processes.
It would be interesting to know on what basis then they were able to make these claims, because you would hope that there was evidence significant enough for them to be able to be so bold in that statement.
The person who advised this particular individual, he was the Secretary of State, they misadvised him. Yes, because that statement, if that is the benchmark, you'll arrest.
Who won't you arrest is what you should
yes, just based on that.
Who will you not arrest?
Let's start with our roads board, okay?
Yeah, okay.
Let's just start with the things that we all travel on the roads. Our lives depend on it.
Yeah.
Just forget the good things they have done, because that's what they're expected to do anyway. That's their job.
That's their job. Yeah.
Now, the things that they haven't done, and the things we hear and read about. Look at the energy sector, okay? EPRA, the people who are in charge of controlling and ensuring that either fuel prices are modulated, controlled. I mean, I'm staggering with this because I'm thinking as my mind, take your pick. Who are you going to leave out? And Eric put it very well. Those who haven't been convicted. But there's no conviction here.
There isn't.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Take your pick. If that is a benchmark, if that's a yardstick, then who do you leave out?
In 2009, the U.S. banned Amos Wako from entering the U.S. after it accused him of not cracking down on corruption during the 18 years that he served as the Attorney General. Well, this was in 2019, actually. The Assistant Secretary of State, Johnny Carson, announced the travel ban as he criticized Wako for failing to prosecute the perpetrators of the post-election violence that killed at least 1,200 people, also claiming that Wako had failed to act on architects of several corruption scams that cost the country hundreds of millions of dollars. This is Big Brother mentality.
Actually, you are being polite when you say it is Big Brother mentality. It's not just Big Brother.
Is there any difference between what we between this and the same kind of attitude that we saw, which I really had an issue with, when we're talking about evaluation and monitoring and report back to us about your elections and such? Is that different? No, same thing.
It's condensation. They're condescending to us. Not, and I'm putting it mildly. You cannot talk about the rule of law in this country when in your very statement you're abrogating that very rule of law.
You're not promoting the rule of law.
No.
When you go ahead and publicly condemn somebody of corruption, and yet you haven't subjected them through the process.
Exactly.
Unless you're telling us you have no faith in our processes.
Yes.
And that it is you who can determine who is guilty and who isn't.
In
From
fact,
a country
you're
whereby
better
the
than our
very
judges.
same principle hangs on everybody. That
does.
they have rights from beginning to end that cannot be abrogated.
Yes.
That if a person then is presented before arresting authority, they have so many rights that you cannot go through. You throw everything at it from the same country whereby their citizens are benefactors or beneficiaries of that same law. Then you want to now extend your hand to another country and say...
Let's discuss this in greater detail at 7 to 8, right? And we'll open up the phone lines and have this public debate on this particular one. 28 minutes to 7. Let's take a look at the traffic.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads. Make some noise. You're listening to Spice FM.
To all the young women, the world is yours to discover and conquer. You are the future, leaders of your own world. Just like the women that came before you, it's your time to break the bias. Girls, run the world.
You are so much more powerful than you think. Hold your head up high.
Wherever my sisters left, I must take them up.
Okay, hold up on the Thika Superhighway this morning. There was an accident there about 15 minutes ago, and it's holding people. So the suggestion is to use the service lane coming off of the Thika Superhighway, where there was nothing about 20 minutes ago. It is now getting towards that jam-packed state of affairs. So you want to watch out for that if you're heading out in that direction, okay? But actually, it's not too bad. All the way then from the junction at the outer ring, traffic is moving really well. It hasn't picked up on Kiambu Road. Now is the time. Don't tell anybody. Get off Kiambu Road now before anybody else gets on. We're looking at it coming out of Westerns, just a little bit here and there. Perhaps folks think it's Friday because there's not really much traffic and things are moving along swimmingly well. How about we continue in that same fashion, shall we? Let's do it. And then let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127. Let's keep things moving this Wednesday.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
$25 to 7. Yes, we are getting those complaints that we have an issue with our Kisumu frequency this morning, 102.5. Our engineers have been alerted. They will sort that out, hopefully, as soon as possible. Ndu,
Yes.
what else are you looking at in the papers?
President of Kenya, President Uhuru Kenyatta, has ordered a crackdown on unruly riders amid rising fury. Massive crackdown on rogue Boda Boda. After the shocking incident of riders assaulting a woman, authorities turned their focus on the sector that employs thousands of Kenyans. But critics' question what they say is a knee-jerk reaction. Critics question what they say is a knee-jerk reaction. So yesterday was International Women's Day. We know, interestingly enough, the day before this video went viral about what had happened to this young lady the Friday before. And it started, and everybody was in the streets, up in arms on social media, condemning the molestation of women by Boda Boda riders. So the cries for justice and speeches by senior government officials led by President Uhuru Kenyatta captured the nationwide anger triggered by the assault of a 32-year-old woman by a gang of motorcycle operators on the Wangari Maathai Road in Nairobi. So, the head of state has now directed a crackdown on Boda Boda operators, saying that the case was only one of the many countrywide. He said during the celebration at the Kabeti School of Government, without a doubt, that was a very disheartening thing to see. And it is only one of the others that have occurred across the country. I have directed law enforcers to conduct a crackdown on Boda Boda operators in Nairobi and move across the country. While recognizing genuine riders and the economic contribution from the sector, the president challenged the operators to smoke out the bad elements. And I quote again, "Look for the rogue riders among yourselves and weed them out. I have instructed the law enforcement officers to use the instruments within the law to punish these perpetrators, and there should never be a repeat of what we saw. This is a blight on the entire Kenyan society. We applaud the many wonderful young people who ride these motorbikes and do great service to this country, including delivering people who ordinarily would have had to walk long distances to places where a matatu couldn't go and helping or wouldn't go and helping passengers with their luggage to get to their doorstep." He condemned unruliness among the riders, citing harassment of pedestrians, riding on pedestrian walkways, and using motorcycles to commit crimes. He said, "We want to work together with you. We want to help your business prosper, but you must also do your bit. These women are your clients. But how will they continue being your customers if you're going to disrespect them in that manner?" It has since been revealed that the woman who had been accosted in the viral video is a lady of Zimbabwean nationality working under the United Nations. According to police reports, after she was driving is when we saw this harassment. He also cautioned President Kenyatta leaders to avoid politicizing the crackdown on claims that the government was targeting low-income business people. Can you see how that would come about?
Of course.
I think you can. So that's what happened with that yesterday. Many also critique, saying it's a knee-jerk reaction. Something happens, there's a crackdown. Something happens, there's a ban. Something happens, I'm ordering this. So on this other side, there's been criticism of this latest crackdown.
They do have a point. All they say is true. But can we also stop these individuals who are clearly high-ranking government officials in huge black vehicles with chase cars? So stop disturbing traffic by hooting. I mean, those things aren't hoot. It's a honk and a hoot at the same time.
Right.
And ensuring that they are given. Oh, man. Everything comes to a halt when these vehicles are passing.
You've had terrible experiences with this thing, haven't you?
They harass the living daylight out of you.
Completely.
No, they do.
That's true.
And there are these people who are in the chase cars who are clearly police officers. They point at you so violently. My friend, even if you didn't want to move, you're going to move your vehicle.
You're very right, City. Unless we actually go into those people who have failed in doing their jobs. Because what does the president mean? I'm ordering a crackdown. What is crackdown? Crackdown on what? Crack the helmets? What? Arrest everybody who's riding a motorbike?
Or arrest those who are carrying 4 people?
What exactly is he looking for? So many people were arrested yesterday.
Yeah, quite a number.
They didn't have valid licenses.
Yeah.
They don't have riders' licenses. The Boda Bodas are not registered. There are agencies that are supposed to be dealing with all these things.
Yes, they are.
If it's a motorbike that does not have a valid number plate, there is NTSA. If it is a rider who does not have a valid riding license, NTSA and the police. If it's about insurance, it's the police. If you've had an influx of all those things, there are people who are not doing their job. And you're now telling them, let's crack and do the job. And go ahead and affect, just like the president said, there are very many of these riders who are actually doing honest business.
Indeed.
There are very many of these riders who are going to be caught up in crackdown that is undefined.
Just look at what we saw.
Crackdown.
Right.
What's crackdown? What?
Look at what we saw with COVID, right? Where a lot of businesses could not operate. Did we not see the significant rise of Boda Boda operators because then people started to do the delivery business?
Yes.
Right? So the thing is, it's difficult to now draw the parallel between this crackdown, because this is essentially what we're looking at. Weeding out those who do not have licenses, do not have insurance, do not have 1, 2, 3.
Don't have helmets, are riding
And
without a
then
helmet.
the bad behavior that we saw meted out against this young girl,
Yep.
the bad behavior that we see individuals being beaten up, man or woman, doesn't really matter, but they do it anyway. Can you connect the two? That because they're
Because you didn't
people
have a
who don't
helmet.
have a helmet or don't have insurance, there's a likelihood of you behaving in a rogue manner.
You're a molester of women.
Is it? Can we draw? Because this crackdown came about because of this video we saw. And what was happening in this video is that this girl was being molested.
And we've seen it with very many other
It
motorists.
has happened with other motorists.
Even male motorists.
Absolutely.
In fact, there's another video that was doing the rounds. Man, there's a guy who's pulled out of his vehicle. He is clobbered.
Right.
Clobbered
Held up in the air at
senseless.
some point, I think,
Yeah.
even, and then thrown down, beaten to within an inch of
Stepped
his
on.
life. So this is the thing. Is there a relation between not having the necessary equipment and facilitation
I would
to
say
do
there
your
is,
job,
Ndu.
and then the rogue behavior that we see?
I'd say there is. And I'd say there is because this is impunity. You see, if you know I'm supposed to be wearing a helmet and you don't wear a helmet and you're passing police officers from home to the entire, throughout the day, if you know that I'm supposed to obey traffic lights and I'm not obeying traffic lights, if you know that there's a police officer who's controlling traffic, but when I get to the police officer, I'm just going to ride on anyway without stopping when the police officer has ordered all the motorists from this side to stop, right? If you know all those things can happen, then you feel that the law does not apply to you. It encourages you to, when you feel aggrieved, you do whatever you want because we are many, we are legion.
But Eric, there's another aspect to it. It's the same, the logic that I'm about to talk about is the same logic that makes you visibly observe dilapidated matatus that are smoking their way from one destination to the other on the roads.
Yep.
And they're passing police persons.
Yep.
Motorbikes. There is an arrangement that policemen have with the transportation industry. And it often involves them giving a little something in the course of the day. It happens throughout the country.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think happens to someone who already knows that they are giving policemen money? Do you really think they feel that they are accountable to any law enforcement officer or any law in the country?
They're not. You see, for very many people, the law is represented. Police represent the law.
They do.
So when you have police in your pocket,
Because that's
it
what
means that
amounts
you
to.
have the law in your pocket.
So who's
You
going
can
to stop
do whatever you want.
Yes.
Now, it happens every single day. You're talking about impunity. You know, they also can't crack down on these people because they say, but we pay you not to crack down.
Yeah. Even with all that, the president speaking, you saw yesterday, I still saw Boda Boda riders and I was like, do you guys know even the president has talked about a crackdown? Do you guys know that even over 300 of fellow
Yourself
riders
have
have
been
been
arrested.
arrested today? Someone is just crossing from left to right. Traffic lights, what? Riding on the wrong side of the road, crossing over. They still don't care. Crackdown should be starting from those people who dropped the ball, who got us here.
Yes.
First place.
What we're seeing are the symptoms. This is the outcome of, as Eric puts it, the ball which was dropped a long time ago. So, even if, again, the president says what he's saying, he's the president, he needs to comment on this thing. The question we always ask is, what needs to happen before those high-ups understand that something ought to be done? The molestation of this young lady highlighted the situation. A situation that we've been living with for quite some time.
It's been the case.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. And also, president orders crackdown. So there's serious action for about 7 days, and then you're going to go back
Back
to
to
where we
factory
were.
settings.
And
Yeah.
crackdown means that the policemen are going to harass the living daylights out of these people.
How
And
many
make a good
motorbikes
buck.
have been
And
impounded?
precisely.
And make a really good buck over the
Precisely.
next
It's like
1
you've been
week.
told, okay.
Free for all, folks.
Schools are about to, okay.
Boom.
Go ahead.
So yesterday you said, let's do just a casual Google search on President Uhuru orders crackdown. Using just those. President Uhuru orders crackdown.
How many crackdowns?
Hey, result number 1. President Uhuru orders crackdown on drug traffickers. Uhuru orders crackdown on illicit drug traffickers. Uhuru orders crackdown on port cargo thieves. Uhuru orders crackdown in the coast. Uhuru orders crackdown on clinics offering contraceptives to young girls. Kenya intensifies crackdown on COVID-19 ruled offenders. Uhuru orders crackdown after crash killed 41. Uhuru orders crackdown is the government response to public outcry, crackdown.
Actually, why
Go arrest them.
I was hoping you'd read something a little more dramatic.
Like
Uhuru orders crackdown on crackdown.
Who wants to crack down the crack?
he says no, crack the down. Uhuru orders crackdown. He's like Uhuru orders lunch. Uhuru orders dinner. Uhuru orders crackdown.
Since we're talking about crackdown, we've been talking about the menace of banditry in Baringo.
Yes.
Something seems to have been done here, or at least is being spoken of. There is a gentleman called Maalim. This Mr. Maalim happens to be the gentleman who is the Rift Valley Regional Commissioner. Mohammed Maalim is his name. And there used to be a national police reservists once upon a time in this area, and they were disbanded. And the reason why they were disbanded, it was said they were taking sides in conflicts, using the guns that they were given inappropriately. So now that particular arm of, should we say, security forces in Baringo have been revived. And they are being taken for training by the GSU. The Interior Minister, our Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i, promised to give the police reservists, and they've also said that they are hoping that once these people have been trained, that they will do what it is that they're supposed to do. Now, I asked myself the question, what will reservists do and how will they help? Reservists, first and foremost, happen to be locals. They know the lay of the land, and if there's a likelihood, they also know people, and they will easily know who is doing what. In every village setting, in every community setting, people know each other.
Yes.
Yes, they know the person you can go to for help. Every detail about people is known. So, in my mind, this is a step in the right direction. But the question I was asking is, are they going to train sufficient numbers to deal with the banditry? And even more importantly, why have they waited this long?
And is it really adequate? This now what has been announced that will be done. Is it really going to sort out the problem? Because we're looking at a once and for all solution at the end of the day. Is it going to happen in the way in which folks do not have to wake up one day and they leave everything behind? Children are writing exams. They don't know if the gunshots are near them. They don't know if the people they see running are coming or going. Is it going to get to that point where people truly then will be able to exist in their communities without the threat of this insecurity over their heads?
If you've ever been to any part of the country where there's banditry or people have firearms, one of the things that you realize, the people who live there will tell you. You hear a gunshot, they tell you, I know that one. In your mind, it's near. They tell you, no, that's very far away. So you ask, how do you know? Says, and they'll explain to you. If it was near, you would hear this and this. Now, to somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about, that noise sounds the same, and they all sound very, very close.
Indeed.
So when the police reservists are taken for training with the GSU and all, how does that address the perpetrators? Have we sent in more detectives
on the ground
to the area
to find out who these folks
to actually
are?
identify who is, first of all, supplying arms in this region, who is coordinating the attacks and the theft of cattle, where do the cattle go?
Eric, do you really think they don't know?
I keep telling you guys that
Bless
they
you.
know.
Do you honestly think they do not know?
Getting young people from Baringo out of their own livelihoods, taking them to a GSU camp, wherever, beating them senseless in the name of training, giving them a gun and sending them back there, is basically condemning a young person to death. It doesn't matter what you call it. Oh, police reservist. Oh. You took a guy from Baringo, took him for training, gave him a gun, sent him back there to go and deal with people who are heavily armed and very well coordinated and organized. It's the same thing as taking a whole truckload of police officers and taking them to Baringo, and they're ambushed and killed.
You'll get them killed.
Yes.
You see, the question that I'm asking, Eric, is this. We had a unit among the GSU, bless you once again, whose task was to deal with what? Not just banditry, but people who specialized in stealing other people's cattle. Okay? Specialized. And these units had locals.
Yep.
You wouldn't bring someone from Luo Nyanza to work in an area where they are cattle thieves. No. You bring people who are pastoralists. People who actually understand the lay of the land. And so, not only know, but they also have a knowledge of the language, and they're better able to deal with that situation. Some of these areas that we talk about, if you went there, it looks the same. You can't tell. If somebody turned you around 3 times, you would not know exactly where you're facing. But the people who live there, they know very well. I'm saying this because I've had an occasion when driving through some of these places. You give someone a lift and tells me, drop you here. You ask,
this is the middle of nowhere. Where exactly?
How do you know that this is the place? He points, and what he's pointing to is everywhere. So you're wondering, but they do know. And so you stop and watch. The person keeps walking into a distance and they disappear. There was a whole system that has been in place for dealing with such things. Where did that system go? Why was it disbanded? And Eric does have a point. You take young people and train them and take them back there, and they're dealing with seasoned. These are people who know how to use weapons. They know the lay of the land. They know the territory better than you. Again, is it a knee-jerk reaction?
It is. No, it's like, this is not even a knee-jerk reaction. This is hoodwinking the public. It is playing to the gallery.
Yeah, so
because
the
people in the area, remember the MP, the Ayala MP and all, because people in the area have been talking about, please return the reservists, please arm us, please. Okay, so you want arms? Fine, we'll give you arms. But we are not dealing with the problem. The problem is that you're being attacked in your own country by a very well-organized gang. And we are not going after the gang. We are giving you guns to go after the gang.
Why are we not going after the gang? So are we saying this gang is more powerful than our security forces?
No, it would appear as though there's somebody you're trying to protect, because you know that they are the ones behind the gang. Like I keep saying, the business of conflict is not cheap. And usually is sponsored by someone or an entity.
It's very expensive.
It's extremely expensive. And so perhaps the person who is then, now in this case the benefactor, is making things happen, is being protected. Come on. You've been able, in even less, in more intricate issues, you've been able to pinpoint, investigate, and find perpetrators in record time. This is for over years. And you mean to tell me that it can't find, cannot do, cannot stamp it out? Sorry. No way.
There's a story on page 14 of The Nation. Man who fled Kirinyaga home found in Lamu 5 decades later.
5 decades is 50 years.
An 83-year-old man who went missing from his home in Kirinyaga in 1973 has been found alive in Lamu County 49 years later. Wilson Numbi Meato left his home in Kagio Kiamashiri village at the age of 34. The husband of 2 wives, Mary Wamulango Numbi and Milka Numbi, had sired 10 children when he left home. He was 34. He had 10 kids by the time. Each of the 2 women had 5 children. 7 of them are living, while 3 have since died. Numbi was a rich man, owning land and houses, some of which he inherited from his late father. But alleged domestic disputes forced him to sell everything he owned and disappear from his homestead, leaving his wives and young children behind, never to be seen or heard from again. His third-born daughter, Pauline Wamwirwa, was only 5 years old and in nursery school when her father vanished. She is now 54. After Pauline married, she told The Nation she searched for her father in different parts of the country. In 2011, she traveled from Kirinyaga to Bura in Tana River County to track down her father after she received information that the old man had been spotted working as a security guard at the Bura irrigation scheme. But she didn't find him there. She also visited for the home for the elderly in Mombasa and Nairobi, could not find him. Pauline said family members, including her own mother, aunts, and brothers, used to mock and laugh at her, saying she seemed to have money to waste when she was searching for a deadbeat dad. She never gave up. She says, it reached a point where I made a prayer to God to help me trace my father and enable me to see him before he died. She shared her contacts on social media and other public spaces so that she could be contacted if the old man was spotted in any part of the country. Her efforts paid off this week when she found her aging father receiving treatment at Mpeketoni Sub-County Hospital in Lamu West, 690 kilometers from Kirinyaga. Mzee Numbi was admitted to the hospital about a week ago. Administrators in the hospital say Numbi has dementia, a condition that makes someone lose memory, especially in old age. He's also malnourished. He needs hospital care. And Pauline and family say they were waiting for the old man to be discharged from hospital so they could take him home. 49 years.
Wow. Unbelievable that he's been found, I think.
Imagine.
Really quickly.
Yep.
Treasury to bypass Parliament in proposed borrowing changes. The National Treasury is plotting to bypass MPs in its borrowing plans through a proposed changes to the Finance Act. The MPs will be left to play the role of rubber stamping borrowing decisions already made by the government as part of sweeping recommendations that will also see the country abandon the 9 trillion shilling debt ceiling. Treasury will now shift to an anchor of 55% of gross domestic product in net present value terms. As opposed to the current case where Treasury is barred from exceeding 9 trillion shillings in a debt ceiling, the Exchequer might have the window to overborrow as long as it gives Parliament a plausible explanation. So you decide what plausible is. Reasons that it might offer include depreciation of the shilling, unexpected spending due to unforeseen factors such as drought or pandemics. The Cabinet Secretary shall provide Parliament with a written explanation to the said circumstances leading to the breach of the limit and provide a time-bound remedial plan. This is according to parts of the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill 2022. If passed, the regulations will give President Uhuru Kenyatta's government, and particularly the next, more legroom to continue the binge borrowing that started around 9 years ago. So, if this amendment to the bill passes, essentially says, we don't have to come through you, Parliament, to ask for permission to borrow some more. All we're coming to you to say is, we want to borrow. This is the reason why. All you need to do is say, go ahead, not debate and then come and tell us yes or no. No. We just tell you the reason why. You say go ahead.
So basically, they are just saying Parliament can now do what it's been doing.
Now it will be
it'll now be legal for Parliament not to do anything about borrowing.
Indeed, because what would be the difference in terms of action? Nothing, because they still come to Parliament. Parliament just says, okay, go ahead. Now it will be legal.
We can no longer blame Parliament.
No.
And the threshold that they're saying that will be part of that law is what?
An explanation from Treasury.
Yes, but what, you see, our borrowing is against GDP. So we say.
So we say.
So what is it? What percentage of GDP is it?
They're also trying to peg it onto something. 54%.
55% of gross domestic product in net present value.
Yeah, terms. But then we have a problem there because our current borrowing is at 59.
So we'll just raise.
So we've already surpassed this.
We'll raise our
now,
GDP.
A long
we'll
time. So now you take that 9 trillion shilling ceiling and you toss it out the window.
We'll debase it.
I don't really understand this, and I'll tell you why I don't understand
We'll look at it in greater detail.
Let's.
And also, actually, maybe even invite Ms. Gladys Wanga. Right? She's still the chair of that Committee on Finance.
She is.
Okay. Before she becomes governor, she needs to come here and tell us the work that she's been doing as chair of this committee. Kenya's biggest conversation continues into the next hour. We'll also tell you about Cipladone. Works 2 times faster. Keep it here for that. It's 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. KANU is expected to be among the parties that will formally join Azimio la Umoja coalition Saturday. Speaking during the launch of Samburu West MP Naisura Lesuda's campaigns, KANU leader Gideon Moi reiterated his support for Azimio la Umoja movement. He also hinted at a major announcement the party would soon make about its political future. Moi also met with ODM leader Raila Odinga on the sidelines before Raila held a meeting in the area. At the meeting, Raila continued to promote Azimio la Umoja and also used the opportunity to criticize Deputy President William Ruto over a plan to have a separate vote counting mechanism. The coalition will hold a meeting of members Saturday this week where all parties supporting his bid for the presidency will be announced. Now, Meru Governor Kiraitu Murungi has announced that his Devolution Empowerment Party, famously known as Ombaso, has joined Azimio la Umoja. Kiraitu said his decision to back Raila's fifth stab at presidency in this year's election was based on research, talking to opponents and listening to confidential reports. During the Tuesday meeting in Meru, the first-time Meru governor exuded confidence that Raila Odinga will clinch the 2022 presidential race come August. This comes days after Meru Senator Mithika Linturi, allied to Deputy President William Ruto, declared interest to unseat Kiraitu to become the third county boss. Ruto is expected to visit Meru and Tharaka Nithi counties after holding a series of meetings in the United States and the United Kingdom. Meru Women Representative Kawira Mwangaza has also declared that she will be seeking to dethrone Kiraitu in the August 9th elections. Now, detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations have finally unmasked the mastermind of the despicable sexual harassment incident that took place along Wangari Maathai Road Friday. This is after undercover agents drawn from the Elite Crime Research and Intelligence Bureau and DCI Nairobi Regional Headquarters narrowed down on the suspect identified as Zakaria Nyaura Obadia. Using digital forensics, the sleuths working with cybercrime experts at the DCI National Forensic Laboratory placed the thug at the scene of the crime scientifically and went after him in Mukuru Kayaba informal settlement. According to DCI boss George Kinoti, the suspect escaped their dragnet by a whisker via a sewer duct in the densely populated settlement. Kinoti said the suspect was also positively identified by his wife and other relatives in his rural home, sexually assaulting the victim in the widely shared videotape. A Nairobi gubernatorial aspirant, Tim Wanyonyi, has castigated the assault and violence unleashed on the female motorist by a section of city Boda Boda riders. During celebrations of International Women's Day, Wanyonyi called on security agencies to trace, arrest and prosecute all culprits who were involved in the heinous act. He noted that while the Boda Boda sector has grown into an income-generating sector, the lack of regulatory framework in the sector has seen it metamorphosize into a security threat. And former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko has been banned from entering the United States over his alleged involvement in significant corruption. The U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, in addition, said that his wife Primrose Mwilu Nyamo Mbuvi, their daughters Saumu Agnes Mbuvi and Salma Wanjiru Mbuvi, and his minor child are also ineligible to enter the country from now on. In a statement, the U.S. Department of State accused Sonko of receiving bribes and kickbacks in exchange for the award of government contracts. Blinken further stated that the designation reaffirmed the commitment of the United States to combating corruption and supporting the rule of law while strengthening democratic institutions in Kenya. And the Interpol headquarters President Ahmed Nasser al-Raisi has lauded Kenya for its leading role in the fight against global criminal syndicates. Al-Raisi exuded confidence that due to the country's strategic position as Africa's gateway, Kenya was best placed to deal with transnational organized crimes affecting the region. He said this during an evening meeting in Lyon, France, that was attended by Kenya's ambassador to the French Republic, Portugal, Serbia, and Holy See, Professor Julio Hongo. Also in attendance was DCI Director George Kinoti, who is currently on international assignment at the Interpol headquarters, where he is representing Africa in the Executive Committee. Others present were Mustafa Ibrahim, an official at Kenya's embassy in France, and DCI Executive Advisor Mohammed Roba. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
At a few minutes after 7 o'clock, let's look at what the roads look like. And it's building up on Mombasa Road today, coming out from the Weybridge, heading out towards the SGR and then towards your Maradaima. Some traffic there. Southern Bypass looking pretty good as a way for you to escape the mad world of traffic on Mombasa Road. But you need to get off around the ICDs just before that, okay? Let's do it. On Jogo Road, there's traffic here as well. It's building up on Uhuru Highway, getting into the city centre and then out towards Westlands. And then just like that, boom, there's traffic on the Thika Superhighway. And it's hot, it's heavy. There have been a couple of accidents here already, and folks are getting away from that, but bumper to bumper. And then like magic, Kiambu Road has done the business as well. Bumper to bumper, both directions, but more of the inbound nature. We're looking at a couple of lanes inbound. Also on Limuru Road, that has started to happen. We're likely to see Parklands clog up some because Westlands is already doing that right now. We're looking at Ring Road Westlands taking on a lot of action coming off of Waiaki Way. James Gishuru doesn't look too bad, but Waiaki Way does. Red Hill Link Road, use that as the option to get away from the traffic. Let's take a look and see at about 7:30 when we start traffic hour proper what it looks like. And let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
7 minutes after 7. Good morning. Kenya's biggest conversation enters the second hour. Yes, the people who are reaching out to us from Kisumu, we understand. Yes, we have had an issue with our frequency 102.5 in Kisumu since yesterday. We apologize. Our technical team is working on that. However, we are streaming the show on YouTube and Facebook, so you can still follow the conversation. SpiceFM KE on YouTube and SpiceFM KE on Facebook. CT, the day's proverb.
It's from Tunisia.
Yeah.
There is no blindness but the blindness of the heart.
There is no blindness but the blindness of the heart. Okay.
Is that what you said at 6 o'clock?
Yeah, it was the same thing. It was today. That was today.
And I have not mentioned it before.
Today, 6 a.m.
I was here.
This morning. Yes. Ochiengo Gondi 102.5 has a problem. Yes, it's being worked on. And everybody else who's reminding us about this. Chris J. Amolo not being able to catch you in Kisumu Pacho. Unfortunate. Lakini itarudi shortly. Ndu? Now, let's go back to this conversation. About who? Mike Mbuvi?
Sonko.
Are we together?
We're together.
Let me look for the specific announcement by the U.S. State Department, www.state.gov, designation of former Nairobi Governor Sonko for involvement in significant corruption. Press statement dated the 8th of March 2022. Issued by the Department of State spokesperson Ned Price. The U.S. Department of State is designating former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko Gideon Mbuvi Kioko due to his involvement in significant corruption. I will repeat. The U.S. State Department is designating former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko Gideon Mbuvi Kioko due to his involvement in significant corruption. While in office, Governor Sonko solicited bribes and kickbacks in exchange for awarding government contracts to his associates. His actions undermined the rule of law and the public's faith in Kenya's democratic institutions and public processes. This designation is made under Section 7031C of the Department of State Foreign Operations and Related Programs Appropriations Act 2021. Under this authority, designated officials of foreign governments involved in significant corruption and their immediate family members are ineligible for entry into the U.S. The Department of State is also announcing the designation of the following members of Sonko's immediate family: his wife, Primrose Mwelu Nyamu Mbuvi, their daughters, Saumu Agnes Mbuvi and Salma Wanjiro Mbuvi, and Sonko's minor child. These designations reaffirm the commitment of the U.S. to combating corruption and supporting the rule of law while strengthening democratic institutions in Kenya. We will continue to use all available tools to promote accountability for corrupt actors in this region and globally.
Okay.
The end. America has spoken.
Okay.
Yes. America says that Sonko, while in office, solicited bribes and kickbacks in exchange for awarding government contracts to his associates.
Okay.
They're at no liberty and no obligation, or they don't feel like they have any explanation to give beyond that.
No.
They then go on to say that the law that they're using designates officials of foreign governments involved in significant corruption and their immediate family members as ineligible to enter the U.S.
Which law is this?
That law, it is called the Department of State Foreign Operations and Related Programs Appropriations Act.
Okay.
They also go further to say, by doing this, we are reaffirming the commitment of the United States to combating corruption and supporting the rule of law while strengthening democratic institutions in Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
They have a commitment to combat corruption and to strengthen our institutions, democratic institutions, ours.
As them.
They have
a sovereign state.
They have commitments.
A sovereign state.
To strengthen our
Another
institutions.
state
Yes.
has the commitment, the persuasion, the everything to strengthen the rule of law and to combat corruption in another sovereign state democratically.
Yes.
That just whittles down the whole definition of democracy.
Why?
Or it enriches it.
Why?
Another
Why do you say
sovereign
so?
state. What gives you this right? What gives you this purview?
Good neighborly relations, good relations that we have between the two countries, the cooperation that we've had between the two countries, the bilateral agreements that we have between the two countries, and everything else.
You know, the danger of things like this? The danger of things like this is that it removes then whatever good intention or right intention such a move would come about, would bring about.
Mm-hmm.
That it would then denote and it would make it seem as though folks were not interested in fighting corruption, because that's what this kind of thing does. Because when you start to argue on some of these other things, it would seem as though you were not interested in bringing corrupt officials to book, or anybody, corrupt individuals to book. However, the very same tenets upon which this entire country rests is this whole idea of human rights, of an individual, whether they're guilty or innocent, you do not know until they've been able to pass through the process, which is why I asked the question, which law are we talking about here? Which due diligence was done? Have they then been able to find that this individual is guilty of all the alleged things that have been thrown at him? Have the court processes been completed? Has the due diligence been done? And you can say unequivocally, this individual is guilty. And because of this grand corruption or whatever it is that we are throwing at him, we will then not allow him into our country, which, by the way, is their right. It is their purview. You can allow or disallow anybody from your shores. However, where this corruption is said to have been perpetrated would then be within the boundaries of Kenya. Yes? Has there been due diligence to prove that? And then even further than that, somebody has to ask, is it him as Sonko, or is there a message that is then being passed to somebody else?
You know, for me, it doesn't really matter whether they're sending a message through proxy, using Sonko as proxy. The point is, all those things that you've said before this. Is there a rule of law in this country? Yes. Is Kenya a basket banana republic? As CT would disagree, but no, it's not. We actually are a functioning state.
With the
We
tenets
are not
of sovereignty
a failed
in
state.
place.
Yes. Even they recognize that. Okay? We have a constitution that sets up the judiciary, sets up the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, sets up the EACC, sets up the police, and under it the DCI. Everything, even laws that define what corruption is, what abuse of office is, and the process of convicting people who are suspected of involvement in this. Okay? We have laws in place. In Kenya, just like in America, somebody is considered innocent until proven guilty. And they are only proven guilty, considered to have been proven guilty, if they have been subjected through that process, where a competent judicial officer, a competent court, recognized in law, declares you guilty. Not somebody who has drunk 2 shots of something and comes out and calls you guilty. You were innocent before they took the first shot. You are guilty after they're drunk.
The second one.
No. Competent law, competent court declares you guilty. Sonko has not been convicted of any corruption activities in this country. None. Does he have cases in court? Yes.
Have they seen out the process?
EACC is in court with the DPP prosecuting Sonko. Has he even gone to one level where he's been declared guilty by one court, and let's say he's even appealing in a second court? No. Sonko was impeached for whatever reasons that the county assembly presented, impeached him. Those were upheld by the Senate, democratic. He was impeached. He tried to push back on the impeachment, has not succeeded. He's saying he's even going to a higher court for that. Due process. This statement does not say Sonko is suspected, Sonko is going through cases in court, and before that, let's just, for that, so that we support, just like going with the Justice Mombingoge ruling, blah, 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 blah. They're saying, while in office, Sonko solicited bribes and kickbacks in exchange for awarding government contracts to his associates. If we said that on this show, that Sonko has solicited bribes and kickbacks, Sonko can take us to court
immediately.
And a competent court in this country can ask us, so
what evidence do you have of this?
Present
the facts.
Come and assist us
with investigation, since you seem to have enough evidence or
so
information.
What gives America the right to basically come and tell us while in office Sonko was doing this?
Nation.
And why now? Why he was in office? Was America in existence when he was in office?
All that time, why did they not bring these things to his door if they have this relevant and significant information?
The right you speak of, if indeed it is a right, is in the act that governs this activity that we are talking about, the one which is in so much dust and heat. In December 2012, there's a gentleman who was the president of America, and his name was Barack Obama. Remember?
Yes.
He signed into law what was actually called, it's called the Magnitsky Law. There's a guy called Sergei Magnitsky. He was a Russian tax lawyer, and he brought to the fore the investigation of a $230 million fraud involving Russian tax officials.
Okay.
Jailed, suffered, got disease, denied treatment. Eventually he died. It was said he was killed by these. It was said, but he died.
Okay.
Now, he had a friend, somebody by the name of Bill Browder. This guy decided to bring this issue before Congress. And among the people who pushed this agenda, John McCain, remember John McCain? Yes. Now, all these things took place over a period of time. But in the end, what we now call the Magnitsky Law became an act. President Obama signed it into law. Okay? What this was purposed to do was to punish those who felt they, one, had impunity and acted in ways that abrogated basic human rights in people. And lists were made. And if you look at the list of people who were caught at this dragnet, they were mostly Russians, judges, police officers, but the same sort of treatment that we are seeing being accorded Sonko. Okay? So long as they thought, it's not that they proved, whatever reasons they have, and they believe these people were involved. Okay?
Yes.
That they had been fraud, that one was proved beyond doubt. But as to the people involved, they didn't go through any court process. They were not, so long as the people who had this act as a tool, and it's the US of A, and you fall under that broad category of people whom they feel are perpetrators of this, you, my friend, will have the axe drop on you.
Yep.
This is what has happened to Sonko.
Yes.
Now, the debate around it as to the where to force, yes, that's a completely different debate. But it is this Magnitsky law that gave me an indication of how it is those who make laws in this country feel that there are people whom they think they must punish. Now, and very much like you, I have a problem with this. And why I have a problem is this. I look at these laws and I say sometimes it is good that people who think they're above the law in a country like ours are punished. But Sonko may think is above the, but Sonko is small fry. So Sonko is not a big fish.
Who do they really want?
We're talking about big fish. Okay, that's number one. Number two, as we said earlier on in the morning, what is this thing that Sonko is being accused of that you can't accuse most people who are in political office in this country? What is it? What is it that Sonko has done that other people haven't done in multiple terms than Sonko himself is being accused of?
Yep.
Okay? But also significant.
As in accused in the court of public opinion.
Yes.
Right? Because this is what it is.
Precisely. And found guilty by whoever decided to find them guilty in the court of public opinion.
Yeah.
But also, there's something that bothers me about this. When someone prevents you from going to their country, and people who are associated with them all prevent you, what you're being told is, we know we have something you want, so we're going to deny you this thing that you want. Okay? And not just you. We are going to make sure your children also suffer as a result of this. Now, there are those who argue that this law has been found to be very, very effective, especially when they pounced on, for instance, people who were considered to have been responsible for the journalist Khashoggi's death, okay? In Russia, in some of these countries where, according to the US, there are these dictators who abrogate human rights at every turn and to every breath that you take, there's some human rights law that is being set aside. It may work. I dare say it has an effect. It has an effect when somebody feels they need to travel to these places. It has an effect if somebody has resources at these places. But if I go back to the US of A, this is the same country where the people they found there, called Native Americans, okay?
Yeah.
Are currently in what we call reserves. It's like their own little country that has been carved up for them, mostly in semi-arid places, where they're allowed to do their own businesses and even run that particular area using laws that are suitable to them. Unfortunately, in my mind, it takes me to South Africa in the days when they had what they call the Bantustans. You have America. Now you have South Africa. You find a country full of Africans in the middle of South Africa. And you're told you are independent in this particular place.
But only within here.
Yeah, but you are still in South Africa, but within here, with your own little tribe, you are independent. And then, essentially, the rules that apply to you outside this country, you look at the logic behind it, and you're seeing this is an attitude that is being couched and is being hidden under this big cloak of democracy. If this same democracy cannot fully be applied uniformly and equitably in your own backyard, this moral authority that you suddenly feel you have to apply to other people's lives, I mean, I dare say, by and large, the rule of law works in America. It works. It works.
And there's certain things that allow for it to work.
Yes.
And there are certain considerations and realizations that they've come about to see why an individual or an entity then will be given everything before the rule of law is then applied to that particular case. The question that comes about, though, is this condescending, patronizing manner in which they deal with everybody else. Whether Magnitsky law, whether whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Because here you're dealing with an external nation within which sovereignty applies.
And you think they care.
And this is the thing. That attitude of we don't care, we should be able to do whatever it is that we want. Look, like I said, you have the right to say whether they can come to your country or not, because after all, it's yours.
Yeah.
That's okay.
That's why people apply for visas.
That's why people apply for visas. Otherwise, we'll be walking in really any way we wanted. But you say we can deny or allow you to come in, right?
Yep.
But then to go ahead and say that this individual, who, by the way, is still in the process right now, in the judicial process right now, you've already bound him and thrown him, and he's facing the gallows, according to you. Meanwhile, he's not gone through the process. The very same process upon which your own rule of law is hinged. What are we talking about?
And that's the one that you are using actually here.
To throw it
you're
at
saying
him.
you're promoting. We are promoting rule of law. We are promoting democracy and democratic governance by condemning this person.
Who has not been tried. He's guilty before innocent.
By the way, I need to add this. When the US of A brought about this list of Russians whom had now been designated and were prohibited from A, B, C, D,
Yep.
the Russians responded.
Of course they did.
They also produced their list of Americans who are
not welcome
prohibited.
to come to their country.
Look, the thinking behind what is being stated, one understands fully.
Yes.
And it is a good thing. What is it about the Western world and these people who claim to be our partners? What is it about the way they see us, which no matter how they hide it, always seems to come to the fore?
It's the bitter taste of global entitlement.
Yeah, that we are insignificant and they can come around and just tell us, okay, I get it. All right? But remember the other day when we were having this discussion about how it is that we have a problem in Ukraine and it has gone beyond the war. It's now become a problem about race.
Yes.
Remember?
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
Exceptionalism. The West suffers from what I call an illusion of exceptionalism. When you think you are better simply because you have bigger roads and bigger buildings, you forget the fundamentals, and that is, it is human beings who do these things. And in essence, human beings are the same.
Exactly.
And the same things that enabled that country to be where they are, how quickly they have forgotten the trials and tribulations that
went through.
Made people move from Europe to go to America in the first place.
They fled it and went to look for liberty.
Yes.
In another land.
So that they can deny others the same liberty.
You're asking what allows them to do this today? It is the same attitude that folks sat in a room and cut up the world.
Yep.
The same attitude where they said, you know what? Here's a couple hundred of us. Here's the entire globe, land mass of untold kilometers. This looks like I like it. This looks like you would like it. How about we cut it up? You have no regard
Mr.
for
Rhodes,
people who are there.
Mr. Rhodes, would you like this one for yourself?
How does this look to you? Sure, I think I'd like
Saucer
it.
Rhodes says,
My
I like
wife
that
and
one.
I would really appreciate a bit of a chunk of this. You don't recognize that there are people living there who have governments and trade, and the economy is already bustling. They know what to do about what they have. And you sit here and say, you know what? Those savages who live there, will come and teach them a lesson or two, and we'll throw education and religion at them and make it seem as if we are the ones who are teaching them. Global entitlement, rubbish, played out in 1884, playing out in 2022.
But look at the acts that we are seeing.
Yeah.
You then have the consequences of it, and you give people citizenship. Or if you're the French, you tell them, actually, we're just one big country. Okay?
You can speak it there, you speak it
yes,
there.
Yes, and Parliament is really this Parliament in
It's all of
It's
us.
called Paris, not Paris.
It's
Paris.
Paris.
Okay, now, then, fast forward, 21st century, later part of 20th century, people want to come to this country, which you told them was also theirs.
Yes.
Suddenly it's an issue. Wait, what?
What is it? We've given you the recipe for baguette. Make it there. You don't need to come here.
We will bring you the flour.
Yeah, don't worry.
So, when the consequences come due, like taxes, okay, you're being told all these things. This is really the outcome of decisions that you made. Had you handled this thing differently, these things wouldn't be happening this way. America doesn't seem to have learned from the incursions it made into Latin America, where they supported dictators. By the way, in the name of buffeting or putting aside communism, they supported vicious, horrible people who really mistreated their own citizens. Terrible people. And what happened? The so-called socialists and communists, who are the common mwananchi, well, they gained
It was an
momentum.
uprising.
And all these dictators, if they didn't lose their lives, they fled. And then you wonder why it is.
And when a dictator started looking like, they're shaky, they'd come and pick him up.
Yes.
If your name is Antonio Noriega.
And you'd be told, you. Now, think about it. You have the capacity and the power to do good. And in many instances, you've done a lot of good. I always think of PEPFAR and what it has done.
Right.
And then you want to muddy it by incursions into people's sovereignty and by an attitude you don't need to have. You could even have that same conversation and have it in a civilized way that makes someone feel this person actually considers that I am as a serious person.
Yeah.
If you don't want to think that they're equal, okay, don't. But at least let them feel that they're serious.
In the cases, for example, where they feel that a crime has been committed that has affected American citizens on American soil, like the case of the Akasha brothers.
Understood.
Okay, seek extradition. You see that there are games being played on extradition. Find a way of making it a rendition. Fine.
We get it.
Okay. Hush puppy, take him from Dubai.
It's
Take
okay.
him. Okay, that we can see. But that one of just standing up and saying, you know what, that man
guy in Kenya.
That guy is very corrupt. That guy is very, very corrupt. Even
fact,
his
we've condemned
minor
him.
child should not come to my country. Okay, you have a right to deny people entry into your country. But going out publicly and saying that city is very corrupt.
That's the purpose, actually. That's how it is purposed.
And that is that is actually where the problem is.
That's the problem.
It's purpose
That's
to
the issue.
embarrass you. It's purpose to serve as a warning that if you're the sort of person who falls into the category, we're going to treat you exactly the same. They'll embarrass the living daylights out of you.
Sure, but it's going
Because
to elicit the question.
I can't sue a country for libel.
Right. It's going to elicit the question, who are you? Who are you doing this as?
It didn't start now in this country. Publicly, our former AG Juana Moswako faced similar.
2019.
Yes, and there were many other Kenyans, high-ranking Kenyans in the Moi government who faced similar sanctions. Let me assure you.
Even former Kilome MP Harun Mwau faced similar.
If you ask those people, they didn't consider it fun. And they choose people whom they know probably have some ties to the US and have an interest. So when they deny you, they know what. It's not that they don't know they're denying you. They know exactly what they're denying you. And they're making it difficult. The family is thrown in just to wrench the knife so that the pain can be pronounced. And so that other people, as you say in Kiswahili, wenye tabia kama hizo mbaya mbawa, iwe funzo.
There's no difference between this and the renditions into taking people into Guantanamo Bay.
And
without trial.
How can there be a difference?
None.
The only difference is
you have determined that CT is a terrorist. You come and pick him up. The next thing, he's in Guantanamo Bay.
He's on an island and you leave
on
him
an
there.
island somewhere.
But Eric, you see, that's the beauty.
No due process.
You know the beauty of this whole thing? It's not on American soil, so you can't talk about American laws. It's in a space that is not considered America. So they'll ask you, but we are not breaking our laws.
Our laws.
So whose laws then are you enforcing?
It's 27 minutes to 8. Let's open the phone lines now. 0719012600. Do you support the US government's travel ban on Mike Mbuvi Sonko, former governor of Nairobi, and his family, with the reasons that they've given? They say that when Sonko was governor of Nairobi, he participated in corruption and soliciting bribes and, awarded tenders to people who paid up those bribes. And for that reason, Sonko is not welcome in their country. But Sonko has not faced any conviction in Kenyan courts on any of those counts. Sonko himself responded to this as we go into the break. This is what the former governor of Nairobi said.
First, I'm shocked. I'm even surprised why this news is just being released or coming just a day after I've declared that I am going to defend my governorship seat in Nairobi County government. I'm very surprised and I'm very shocked. And I think the US government has also not verified their facts. It is true, I've been charged in courts, but not with any offense related to issuance or giving out of tenders by the Nairobi City County government when I was the governor.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads. Make some noise. Yeah. You're listening to Spice FM.
I hope you don't believe that Hustler is a poor person. Hustler is a person who is making a living through hard work. The group of leaders we are having now, Kenyans, listen, the chemical composition is the same. You will mold them to ODM, then NASA, you mold them to Kanu, mold them to Jubilee, mold them to any other different color sometimes, but the chemical composition is the same.
It's not about me as Nurdin Haji, but it's about the constitution that I swore to protect. So when individuals attempt to hoard those powers and they want to be investigators and also prosecutors, then of course I have to defend that position because that position is in the constitution and that's what Kenyans wanted.
I'll tell you what happens is that when you ignore court orders, you're creating and quoting anarchy. Then you create a very dangerous precedent.
A story is told of the first president of the country who also went to visit Madare, presidential tour. Yeah? And of course, he went to this place and he introduced himself. So one of the enemies says, "Oh, hata wewe kuna jina kama yangu."
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
The sun is out in Nairobi at 17. We'll see highs of 28 and lows of 16 today. It's sunny at 15 in Nakuru, highs of 29 and lows of 13. Sunny in Nyeri as well at 14, highs of 29 and lows of 11. We'll see lows of 12 in Eldoret, where it's currently sunny at 15. We'll go to highs of 27. Partly sunny conditions in Mombasa at 27, highs of 32 and lows of 26. While in Malindi, it's partly sunny at 27 and we'll see highs of 31 and lows of 26. Kisumu is sunny at 21. It'll go to highs of 30 today, while Kakamega goes to highs of 32, currently at 17 and lows of 15. Okay, out in Kampala, partly sunny at 21, highs of 29 and lows of 19, while it's sunny at 28 in Dar es Salaam. We'll see highs of 32 and lows of 27. We'll see the same thing happening in Lagos, mostly clear currently, highs of 33 and lows of 27, while it's still raining in Johannesburg at 15. We'll go to highs of 21 today, and 33 will be the high recorded in Kinshasa today. That's currently mostly clear at 23.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
Still continues on Thicker Superhighway this morning. Thick traffic. So what's going on here? It's going all the way towards that roundabout at Outer Ring and beyond that just a little bit. Kiambu Road also continues in and outbound traffic. We have quite some in terms of lanes coming past the DCI headquarters. On Limuru Road as well, way into the belly of Gigiri. A lot of traffic coming out into that particular area. And then out towards Limuru Road. Into the city. Westlands also doing that thing, thumping with traffic, many parts of Westlands, and then coming out towards Ring Road Westlands, where folks are trying to get out into the city. The Red Hill Link Road is a good one. It's a nice drive, easy streets, there's an option for you to stay out of the crazy morning traffic. Langata Road also continues a little bit of it on Rilo Dingaway, then going towards Gong Road. So we're looking at quite some of that playing out this morning. Mombasa Road, there is traffic, but it's not too crazy for now. The Eastern Bypass, folks, if you were trying to bypass traffic, probably the Eastern Bypass is not your option this morning. Think about it. And then let's talk. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
It continues at 20 minutes to 8. This is the Situation Room on Spice FM, broadcasting around the country and around the world. Spice FM KE on YouTube and Facebook. Our frequency 102.5 in Kisumu has an issue today, but our technical team is working on that. However, our audience in Kisumu, please follow the conversation on social media where we are live streaming the show. So, the U.S. State Department released a statement yesterday where they said they're designating former Nairobi Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko due to his involvement in significant corruption. They say that while in office, Governor Sonko solicited bribes and kickbacks in exchange for awarding government contracts to his associates. His actions undermined the rule of law and the public's faith in Kenya's democratic institutions and public processes. This designation means that they are now banning him and the immediate family members from entry into the U.S. The Department of State is also announcing designation of the following members, that is Sonko's wife, Sonko's two daughters, and their minor child. These designations reaffirm the commitment of the U.S. to combating corruption and supporting the rule of law while strengthening democratic institutions in Kenya. The U.S. says we will continue to use all available tools to promote accountability for corrupt actors in this region and globally.
Okay. I want to know how exactly stopping him from going to the United States is going to ensure that the rule of law and that is upheld in Kenya and that corrupt practices cease to exist in Kenya.
It's meant to be a deterrence.
It is meant
So
to be a
that you
deterrent.
won't, it is meant to be a deterrent.
Yes.
So that if you want to participate in corruption, you think, guy, but now I'll not
If
go
I
to
do, I'll
America.
not go to America.
Yes.
Or they will announce it in public. And it will be
And
known.
tell the whole world, and there'll be a press statement.
Well, the thing is,
They'll come and tell us that so-and-so has been soliciting bribes.
In Kenya.
In Kenya.
So therefore, you cannot come to
And
America.
it's a public figure.
remember,
And there's nobody in Kenya who will have, started a rumor like that.
the reason why I brought in the example of the Magnitsky Act is to simply point to something very simple. That everything we're discussing here is good as, should we say, matters of discussion on a topic. Okay?
Uh-huh.
That act allows them to do that.
Okay.
Even if you came from Greenland, it still allows them to do it. Even if you didn't come from Greenland, it still allows them to do it.
Yes.
Okay? Now, this is how clearly people who came up with this believe they can enforce deterrence. But the understanding seems to be that these are people who will want to go to the country and people who will
Have an
be
interest.
afraid, yes, who have an interest in that country, and people who, if not them, their children, and people who will not want to be announced in public as having participated in this, that, and the other.
I like that you used the word believe.
Yes.
That they believe
Yes.
it will serve as a deterrent. That they have come up with this law. You see, this is the thing. And that's what I'm saying. Whether it was 300 years ago or today, there is still that attitude like we then can come up with something and the rest of the world is going to heal because we have said it. You have this belief that, yes, all right, you operate in the land of the free and the brave, but it means, therefore, that everybody then wants to operate within those circles. So you can come up with a global edict, such as this, believing that it is your place that everybody now wants to aspire to. And so because of that, it gives you the almost audacity to come up with something like this and then enforce it. That you can then just say, because you have this act that says, if we feel, you don't have to prove it. Remember that it is the proof of somebody's guilt that your rule of law is hinged on in the country. But because you feel, or that you believe because of what you may have heard, or even maybe what you have seen, or hearsay, somebody told you, you then can come up with an act and enforce it outside the boundaries of your country. And because you have said it, everybody just has to bow.
Would they expect reciprocity?
If it happened in the other direction, would they say, okay, we also will agree?
For example, like
when Russia...
let's even say, what's Russia? Russia is a declared enemy, blah, blah, blah. Kenya, okay? So we suddenly just designate somebody as, somebody who is corrupt, somebody who sponsors corruption, or somebody who even sponsors terrorism.
But we are at liberty.
And we then say
we have
that
an
we
act.
go public and say, for that reason, we therefore feel that this person should not come to our country. And any associated business in this country is then frozen.
We can do so, but we don't.
Do you think that they would? No, the question is not whether we can do it. Is how these same Americans would
be
take
accepted
it.
or
It would
received.
be nice, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Let's go to the phone lines.
The reception will be rosy and rainbows and bunnies.
0719-012-600. Do you support the U.S. government's travel ban on Mike movie Sonko on not what they're calling suspicion, but what they're calling is his involvement in corruption, soliciting bribes while in office? Oscar Ingong.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Oscar.
morning.
It's been a while.
Walimu ni aje?
Oscar, vipi?
Poa.
Nakusikia uko mzima lakini?
Alhamdulillah, nashukuru.
Umepotea wapi bwana?
Niko nasikiza tu chini ya maji.
Good stuff.
Asante.
Hebu weka hiyo redio yako chini ya maji kidogo.
Sawa, kabisa, saizima.
Haya.
Now, I can hear the concerns that you're raising as regarding the statement that was issued by the U.S. government. However, with all that passion and zeal that I can hear Nyaralego, throwing out barbs at the statement. My challenge is, have you taken time to maybe do your own research to find out whether these things are factual or not? Because I want to believe for a government to issue such a statement, they didn't just wake up and looked around and found nothing to do and decided we will issue this. They must be held to account, and that would apply to you as well. Before you say how could they do it. I mean, we live in this country. Just a minute. We live in this country. And even before taking somebody to court, there are people with questionable characters that we know live amongst us. We will not wait for the court to declare Latiff guilty over some issue. If I live with Latiff and I am his friend and I know this is how he carries himself, the court may not declare him, but I know this is his trend. So maybe I want to throw this back to you and to hear what you have done to find out. Yes, Sonko may have issued a statement saying that, okay, he's not been charged for ABC, but is it that he hasn't done it? I mean, they may have done their due diligence and came up, and because they are not waiting for Kenyan judicial system to bring up no, just a minute. You see, they are an independent
I'm just asking,
people.
Oscar, why have they not waited for the judicial process to play out in Kenya? Because we are not talking about something that is going to happen. We are talking about something that is presently happening. He is in the system right now.
You see what if you hear the statement by Sonko, he says the allegations that they are pegging on their statement, he's not been charged for them.
Yep.
And for that reason, you will not hear those in court. And that's why I'm saying, have you taken your time to do your own research?
I'll answer you there, Oscar. I have not taken time simply because there are institutions in this country. The same thing that America is promoting, rule of law and public institutions, is the same thing I'm promoting. There are public institutions in this country that are tasked with doing that homework and subjecting Sonko through due process.
Exactly.
Those public institutions are doing their work.
Currently.
They are currently doing their work. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, and the Judiciary, they're doing their work.
On other matters, not the ones that they have raised.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yes.
And for that reason, that's why I'm saying we may be relying on the court to tell us Latiff stole city's goats. But the court is not dealing with the matter of the theft of goats. The court is dealing with the matter of that Latiff swindled city of some money.
Yeah. So I'll ask, so where are you getting that information from? That's what I'm asking. That's what we are asking.
That's what we're asking.
Oscar, you raise a very valid point.
So what I'm saying is, don't condemn before you get the facts.
The same thing we're telling the Americans not to do. The Americans are doing the same thing.
Maybe they have, and
Oscar,
that's why I'm saying
not only maybe
the ball is on you to do your research.
So what they ought to do...
The ball is on you to do your research.
Absolutely not, Oscar. What the American government ought to do is provide the evidence.
They've made the statement. They should be corroborating evidence.
Yes.
Now that is where you should take your line and find out, have you shared this evidence? But
that's the question we're asking right now.
Okay, Oscar.
Say again?
Thank you for your call. Let's hear from the other callers as well. Paul in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Okay. What's your view on this?
I think it's both unfortunate and fortunate in the same breath. It's unfortunate that we are not sovereign enough to be able to see some of these things on ourselves. But looking at it deeper, we go looking for all this from them. Where is our number two? Last week, where was he? And what was he doing?
In America.
Doing what? Blaming his own government for not being able to do some basic things. So we are taking it to them and telling them, you have to come and do this for us. So I think they're just doing what they're supposed to do.
So because the deputy president has gone to America to talk about the situation in Kenya, that gives the American government the carte blanche or the justification?
Have you ever seen America coming to complain to us that their government is not doing what they're supposed to do?
Valid
So
question.
we are telling them we are not able to do what we are supposed to do, so that's why they're coming.
Okay.
And looking at their Kasha story, we were here and we were telling them, we were telling the whole world that we cannot be able to find the evidence. They came here, picked the Kashas, and boom, everything was out. And some of them were even admitting to the whole thing. So I think some of these things, we put them to ourselves. We even had the issue of 2017 post-election. And we were unable to deal with it. What did we do? We took it to the world. Rwanda decided to deal with it on their own.
Well, there was an international tribunal on Rwanda as well.
Yes, but what did Rwanda do?
The international tribunal on Rwanda was an initiative by the international community.
Yes.
But yes, you're also saying that they had their own Gashasha courts that dealt with the local issues.
Yes, the Rwanda president said, we can deal with this. Yeah, these things we can deal with. Basically, what I'm trying to say, we take our issues to the world, and when they come to us, we start complaining.
Actually, that is definitely one way of looking at it. But you see, the point that we're raising here wasn't the issue, the content of what was being said. Part of it was the manner in which it is being said. You see, even if your neighbor always comes to you to ask for salt, okay?
Yes.
That isn't reason for you to also tell everybody in the neighborhood that your neighbor's children also haven't gone to school because he hasn't paid fees.
Meanwhile, what he came to ask for was salt.
Nice one.
He only came to ask for salt, so give him the salt. If you don't want, don't give him the salt. But what business do you have telling other things which he has told you in confidence?
You know, it depends on what you call confidence. Because I don't see confidence in how we present our case to them. So we don't just go saying of salt. So even calling our own leaders, Nimujinga, stupid.
Sawa, Paul. Thank you, Paul. Have a good one. Let's hear from Elijah in Nairobi. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning, Elijah.
You know, we may be bemoaning the actions of the U.S. government. But these actions may be born of a realization of failed local systems, as some of the earlier callers had said. This is a person who was cleared by IEBC while it was common knowledge that he escaped from his prison sentence at Shimolatewa. So how do you then say you have structures that work if the judiciary knows this guy hasn't finished serving his sentence? The IEBC somehow turns a blind eye to it, and then we overwhelmingly vote for him, or allegedly, and we now come and say, how can they? You know, we are a sovereign nation who allow prison escapees to become governors.
Listen, if we allow prison escapees to become governors, it is us. Okay?
Yes.
That is an exact demonstration of our sovereignty. If today we choose, we have a constitution that says the judiciary, there are three arms of government: executive, legislature, judiciary. If tomorrow we woke up and did away with the judiciary, that's an exercise of our sovereignty. It doesn't allow somebody else to come and say, you know, but you see, you guys don't even, you're not sovereign enough. You're not.
Meanwhile, everybody can create the rules of their own game.
They have not told him you cannot continue living in that country that is sovereign. They have said, you guys and your sovereignty, there are certain characters that we will not allow into our sovereignty. Now, we are getting on a high horse and saying, how dare you not allow our people?
Because
how dare
Elijah,
you declare
there's
this?
no argument. Hold on, Elijah, there's no argument. They have the right to allow or disallow anybody to come into their country. That's not the point. You can agree or disagree. That's all right. You don't want him to come in, no problem. What we are saying here is, On what grounds did you determine his guilt? Was there a process that has been completed from end to end saying that, yes, he's been charged, there's been an allegation, he's been charged, he's been through the system, he's been found guilty, he's been convicted?
So
that
here
is the
my
point. If you don't want him to come until forever, that's all right.
What's your point?
My point is this. You are saying that these actions have to be predicated on a system that has demonstrated failure as per their understanding. Honestly, as per some of our understanding as well. You have to pass an integrity test to become an elected official. There is demonstrated lack of integrity. So when you're saying you have to go through this judicial system, a judicial system that pronounced something, and then it was trampled underfoot. Then now we say the only way this thing would make sense is if we allow for the same judicial system to find him guilty or otherwise, and the consequences taken for us to then say, okay, that seems fair.
Elijah, do you have faith in Kenya's systems?
I have faith in some of Kenya's systems, but I also believe that Kenya's systems are heavily manipulated.
Okay.
And this is why you can find a situation where someone says, in a normal situation, we would let the process go through.
Yes.
But a system that allows for people who have failed a certain declared threshold to then hold positions of authority.
You know what? The point here is,
maybe
Elijah,
a system we shouldn't take.
Bas. Because you are the sovereign of this country, you, Elijah, and I, Eric and City, because we are the sovereign, it is upon us to either say that we like the system and let it continue, or we don't like the system and we change it. Not somebody else to come and say, Elijah, you don't like your system.
You know, Elijah, there's a subtle argument here about predicating your discussion not only on the rule of law as per your jurisdiction, but also supposedly stating, perhaps inadvertently, that you are under no obligation whatsoever to give reasons for your actions, and that your actions, by their very nature, are sufficient. And that we can assume on your behalf that due diligence has been done, but because you have said it, it is so.
And it is because it is you who has said it,
Yes.
not because anybody else has. Because it is you specifically who has said it,
Yes.
then we must all follow and drop and fall in line. Because it was you.
As we conclude, Elijah, let me just read you two parts of this statement by the U.S. State Department. They say Sonko solicited bribes and kickbacks in exchange for awarding contracts. And then they say his actions undermined the rule of law and the public's faith in Kenya's democratic institutions and public processes. In conclusion of this statement, they say that this is them reaffirming the commitment of the U.S. to combating corruption and supporting the rule of law while strengthening democratic institutions in Kenya. How does that action do any of those things?
Well, there are a number of ways. First, the idea that we are discussing it means that people are now asking, so what is the rule of law? Is this something that is actually a problem? Because we know we are headed into electioneering. People give money out left, right, and center. Is that part of rule of law?
No, it's
Should
not.
we be asking of a higher standard of our elected officials?
No, yes, we
And
should.
if we seem unwilling or unable to do so, should such a discussion stir up this sort of thought?
Should an external force enforce our own laws?
If our internal forces seem unwilling or unable to do so, wouldn't it be prudent for an external force to then they have not come into Kenya.
They have
not
It
come
dances
into
on the
Kenya
shoes of
and-
sovereignty.
What have they done to Sonko in Kenya?
Elijah, thank you. Thank you for the contribution. You're going to top of the hour in the news. We'll continue this debate. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. In the next hour, let's have a conversation that's slightly different. We'll have the PS for the East African Community, Dr. Kevin Desai, and our friend from KEPSA, what's his name?
Ebenezer Amadi.
Mr. Ebenezer Amadi will be talking about the laws that are needed to ensure that we have proper management of our waste. Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Okoh is taking powers from the National Assembly to increase Kenya's public debt ceiling, which he said is not sustainable. Through the proposed amendments to the Public Finance Management Act of 2012, Siasiatani is seeking the removal of the PFM debt ceiling of 9 trillion shillings, which is expected to be breached in the near term amid a widening deficit projected at 846 billion shillings in the financial year 2022-2023. Under the new amendments, Siasiatani proposes for deletion of the ceiling as public debt load has already breached the 55% threshold, which has been proposed by Treasury. The new amendments, should it be passed, will give the CS powers to write to Parliament, explaining what circumstances have led to the breach of the limit and provide a time-bound remedial plan. Now, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission has put on notice leaders perpetrating hate speech and threatening the security of the country. NCIC Chairperson Dr. Samuel Kobia, while calling for dialogue among stakeholders ahead of the August 9th polls, said the commission, which has embarked on a countrywide civic education and advocacy campaign, will not be intimidated by politicians. With the commission being criticized for failing to formally deal with incitement and hate speech suspects, NCIC Chairperson Samuel Kobia said that this time things will be done differently. During the relaunch of WIAN Platform for Peace, an initiative aimed towards a free, credible, inclusive and peaceful election, Kobia called for collaboration and dialogue among different agencies in government and non-governmental organizations to ensure peace prevails. Now, former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko has been banned from entering the United States over his alleged involvement in significant corruption. The U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, in addition, said that his wife Primrose Mwelu Nyamu Mbuvi, their daughters Saumu Agnes Mbuvi and Salma Wanjiru Mbuvi, and his minor child are also ineligible to enter the country from now on. In a statement, the U.S. Department of State accused Sonko of receiving bribes and kickbacks in exchange for the award of government contracts. Blinken further stated that the designation reaffirmed the commitment of the United States to combating corruption and supporting the rule of law while strengthening democratic institutions in Kenya. This, as Mike Sonko has questioned the United States government for labeling his family and himself as persona non grata over his alleged involvement in significant corruption when he held the top office at the City Hall. While admitting that he was shocked by the U.S. move, Sonko, in a statement, claimed that Washington's decision was state-sanctioned in a bid to deter his political endeavors ahead of the August polls. Sonko had previously hinted that he will seek to reclaim his governorship seat in the upcoming general election. Now, the government has deployed national police reservists in the volatile areas of Baringo in a major operation to eliminate bandits. Rift Valley Regional County Commissioner Mohammed Malim said the Ministry of Interior had dispatched 3 armored personnel carriers and 80 national police reservists to Baringo North and South to quell the heightened insecurity in the region. In what appeared to be a shoot-to-kill order, Malim ordered the security personnel not to spare the bandits. The Ministry of Interior says it will not be business as usual in areas within Baringo County, where lives have been lost in the frequent banditry attacks. Tuesday at Mochongoi sub-county, a security operation was launched, dispatching heavy security machinery and redeploying 80 national police reservists. Areas of Kasiela, Sinoni and Lemaiwe in Baringo South are already inhabitable. Now, the Intergovernmental Authority on Development says at least 70% of fish caught in Lake Turkana is lost due to harsh temperatures, poor infrastructure, and lack of cold storage facilities. IGAD says the lake, which is the 4th largest in the continent and supports communities in Kenya and Ethiopia, has high potential which has not been exploited. This came as it emerged that 20 of the 60 species of fish in the water body were targeted by illegal fishermen, with use of undersized nets being the norm. This emerged during the coordination meeting between senior officials from Kenya and Ethiopia over the current status of the fisheries sector around the Omo Turkana Basin. Dr. Eshedede Jen, IGAD Environmental Program Coordinator, said there was need to address the high levels of post-harvest losses. He noted that the program, apart from supporting the fishing communities around the basin, would also look into the issues of marketing. Now, President Yoweri Museveni's son and advisor for special operations, Lieutenant General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, has resigned from the military after serving for 28 years. Kenny Rugaba announced his resignation in a tweet on Tuesday. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Seto. Good morning.
.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
On the Thika Superhighway this morning, going all the way past Allsops and then out towards the junction, coming from Outering. So we see a lot of the traffic at a few minutes after 8 o'clock. We are in traffic hour proper. Coming into the city then from Jogo Road out towards Landis and then to the roundabout at Kamkunji onto Haile Selassie. Coming in from Gong Road as well on the other side. That thumping with traffic on Langata Road is looking quite crazy. Taking on some is Rilo Dinga Ray this morning, then going towards Gong Road and then out towards Community. So, huge mishmash of traffic on Mombasa Road as well. Looking at that whole section coming from Sabaki out towards the Gateway Mall. And then we're looking at North Airport Road, which is piling up some onto the Eastern Bypass. And then coming off of Manyanja and... everywhere, really. A lot of traffic this morning. Okay, so that's what it looks like. Nothing too crazy, but let's keep an eye on things and then let's talk on SpiceFM. KE on Twitter, text 40127. Let's keep things moving.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room. The only way to start
Kenya's biggest conversation continues at 7 minutes after 8 on the 9th day of March 2022. We are live on SpiceFM around the country. We are also live across the globe on SpiceFM KE on YouTube and Facebook. For the next 1 hour, we are also live on KTN Home. Before we introduce two guests who've joined us this morning to talk about plastic pollution management, let's hear today's proverb.
There is no blindness but the blindness of the heart. This is a Tunisian proverb.
There is no blindness but
the blindness of the heart. Yes.
This is just too deep. You said it's deep.
See, the question is often
those things
asked,
love is blind and blah, blah, blah.
Yes, I mean, what do you see? What tool do you use to see? Do you see with your heart? Do you see with your head? Do you see with your eyes? What do you see with?
With your heart.
Precisely. There are those who don't have hearts, so that we can determine what it is that they see with.
Oh, wow.
So they're blind.
Well, it is said they don't. Everybody has a heart. Yes. But when you say someone
is heartless.
Yes. No empathy, no feeling.
They are blind to what other people are going through.
Yes. The emotions that you feel they ought to be sensitive to, they clearly are not. So you could argue that they're blind to it.
So then, by that, they're heartless.
By that, you can say, indeed, that they're heartless.
There is no blindness, but the blindness of the heart.
Yes.
Our two guests this morning, one of them is the Principal Secretary in the State Department for EAC in the Ministry of the East African Community and Regional Development, Dr. Kevin Desai. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us in the studio.
Thank you.
Good to have you. Our other guest is a man who's been here before. Well, Dr. Desai has also been here before, just not here physically. This time, first time in the studio. But Amadi the Ebenezer, he's a program manager for Sustainable Inclusive Business at the Kenya Private Sector Alliance. Good to have you in the show, Amadi.
Good to be here, and thank you, Eric, Ndu, and CT. I think you've you were trying to give me some leeway here because you've just introduced Dr. Desai, and there's no title to my name, so you added the Ebenezer.
Yes.
I think, why don't we bring about an element of equity? The Dr. Desai and the Ebenezer. How is that?
The Ebenezer is still superior. And Dr. Desai agrees. Amadi the Ebenezer.
Yes. The stone of help.
Yes. The stone of help.
Yes.
Hey. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. We want to have a conversation on a matter that we've had a conversation before, and this is on the circular economy. This is on how to manage plastic waste. This is on how to make sure that we do not end up with a lot of the plastic wastes in our environment. We are picking up the plastic waste, but what are we doing with it? The 3 R's. We were talking about the 3 R's earlier. Amadi.
Yes.
Recycle, reuse,
refurbish. They could go up to 5 or 7. So the could be
reduce is one of them.
Yeah, reduce is one of them.
Reduce.
So you can start with refuse. So refuse basically says that it's a principle where you try to stop the usage of items that are problematic. For example, the single-use plastic.
Okay.
Then you can go to reuse. So, for example, good practices here that you're using the reusable bottles. See, you're taking up the good practice. There is refurbish. For example, if you're to use electronics. There is repurpose. If you were to take something and change its purpose from its original intended objective. And there is recover. That is actually towards the last. Recover when you're recovering energy. For example, if you know, with waste you can recover energy towards the end instead of just disposing it in a landfill. Yeah. So it's
could go on and on.
Yeah.
Even repent.
So you can use the 3, you can use the 5.
Repent from your ways of thinking.
That touches on refuse.
Okay. So Dr. Kevin Desai, in the East African community, and I mean Kenya is a very, very active state in the East African community, but we also know that the countries in the EAC, and in fact the last time you were telling us, you're looking at harmonization of laws in various states and seeing how then we can move forward on this. There has been a review of the various laws that govern waste management and use of the environment. Maybe you can just give us a brief of the latest work that's been done on reviewing some of these laws.
Indeed, the relevance of policy, legislation, regulation and standards is critical by way of how it informs those 7 R's that you mentioned, how we are able to mitigate and adapt to the transformation of and the protection of the vulnerability of the environment. And within this context, very directly associated to this conversation this morning is of course the East African Community Polythene Materials Bill, which is awaiting assent by the heads of state. But this is part of a broader effort by the EAC with respect to its responsiveness to climate change adaptation, and in essence addressing the issues of vulnerability as well as the reduction and building socio-economic resilience on the same, and promoting the disaster risk management within this context. Now, within the context of the EAC and why it's so critical is that indeed we find ourselves, even as a nation, as a sovereign nation of Kenya, we are interconnected through the transboundary ecosystems, for example, the shared resources that we have by way of Lake Victoria, or the many rivers that start from Kenya and then run into the East African community, the basins that we share across borders and so on. And so within the context of the East African community's work and the promise as well as the potential it has, it's that overarching ability to create policies, legislations, regulations that then have that ability to promote the coordination as well as the collaboration towards enhancing the overall state of integration and thereby addressing some of the pertinent challenges we have within our social, economic and environmental framework. Within this context, indeed the frameworks that exists include 16 sectoral councils where there is collaboration on all aspects, whether it's healthcare, industrialization, security, environment, and so on. And why this is absolutely critical for this discussion this morning is that, indeed, the very essence of circularity, by way of its inclusiveness, its self-reliance, its resilience, is based on the fact that while the issue of plastic challenges with respect to a global trend of 300 million being dumped within the environment is of crucial importance, it requires that circularity to look at the entire value chain of how it's developed in order to adapt and mitigate against it. And for that, it requires all the entire framework and fabric of social, economic, and environmental sectors. Let me illustrate on one point. We're aware that we have a very strong research, education, as well as skills base within the EAC with its many universities. But that ability for the issues pertaining to plastic to be mainstreamed into education, research, in order to find the new generation of innovation and transformation to mitigate and adapt is critical. And therefore you need this sectoral council approach which interconnects and promotes that coordinated ability and that compassion for us to address this challenge. And so this illustrates, how important it is that within the context of a roof called the East African Community, then, all partner states are able to not only leverage, synergize, but, be able to find ways in which they're able to come closer to their aspirations. Kenya, of course, leads these efforts with respect to plastic transformation and becomes one of those flagship initiatives within the East Africa community, finding solutions and that ability to promote the necessary transformation within the circularity of the economies.
You speak of the bill that is awaiting assent by the heads of state, the EAC Polythene Materials Bill. So if or when this becomes law, what will it mean? Will it mean that it becomes like the bigger, more encompassing and supreme law on governance of polythene within the East African community? Does it repeal the domestic laws in the various countries, or does it supersede the other domestic laws in the various countries?
Well, in essence, it promotes the standard within the context of the EAC and in recognition of the fact that we are totally interdependent as East African partner states, whether it's our value chains for business, our interdependency of manufacturing where produce is produced in one country and then processed in another, or that ability to trade ferociously throughout the East African community, which is now increasing in size with the addition of Congo, and that'll make us 275 million strong citizenry and almost 5.5 million square kilometers. Now, this is a huge size and a huge undertaking, but within the context of the revolution that we require with respect to the transformation of the circular economy, then, it requires not only the overarching policy and agreement and consensus, but most importantly, the standards. What will happen on the ground is eventually the East African community plastic and plastic waste management policy and strategy will be implemented. And this will then bring about the entire systematic approach towards creating the support for various initiatives, which include the necessary policies, legislations, regulations, standards, the requisite infrastructure, the ability to promote greater levels of coordination, the competency, the awareness creation. And all of this will not necessarily be a mandate from a policy perspective, but a key pointer with respect to all different structures and capacities to work themselves towards promoting the necessary integrated innovation on the cause of adaptation and mitigation.
How does this come into play, Ebenezer, from your point of view here? Because, we have this bill, to be assented to in a short while. A few days ago, we had the world basically in Nairobi talking about this same thing and saying, all right, by 2024, we're going to see that there will be an internationally legally binding document for all nations to say plastic pollution must come to an end. How does this then play out practically on the ground to see that this intersectoral approach that Doc has talked about a few minutes ago will actually come to play out in Kenya on the ground?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I was listening to Dr. Desai, and I really appreciate his knowledge in the sector. And of course, I also admire him because he was also at the helm of the leadership of CAPSA at some point. So he understands the regional dynamics. So basically, as he mentioned, that this bill that is still in play and still awaiting a sentiment by the president, then provides guidance to the East African community. And of course, we normally say that the national law is always supreme to any other law if you are in the country, because you are, as he mentioned, a separate state to each other, but you come together to collaborate on matters environment, matters health, transportation, and all these other aspects. So it provides a guide to how the region should move. So what happens is that most countries will start, for example, if they do not have certain regulations, laws, and policy that are streamlined towards what the bill is talking about, then they will begin to do so. Kenya is quite ahead on this. We know that there is a national sustainable waste management policy and bill in Parliament. We are just waiting for it to come out. And then there is also the EPR regulations 2021, which is setting pace in terms of the private sector taking the challenge in terms of after post-consumption, they still have that responsibility of the product that they put in the market. And what came out of UNE actually with the agreement is that the countries, it's a good thing because the countries then did pass it, so they adopted it. And we'll begin to see countries aligning towards the proposal. And this was proposed by Rwanda. Yesterday we were having a delegation from Rwanda at CAPSA. They were coming to learn how Kenya is doing in terms of management of waste and adopting of innovations. For example, what companies are doing, for example, one of the companies that is one of the members of CAPSA is called Synergy. And they have a project that is in line with waste to energy. Now, so I was making a joke and saying that Kenya normally has very nice policies, and I think it's in the 80s and 70s, Singapore came to learn from us, and they're a first world country. So I was making a joke that now that they're here to learn from us, they probably will become a first world country.
Rwanda is the next first world country.
That's going to be so. But it was just a joke. But also touching on the question that you asked, before UNE, as Sustainable Inclusive Business, which is a knowledge center under the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, we did a review of laws, regulations, and policy in the East African region on single-use plastics. So we did this in collaboration with Anjawala and Kana. I know Dr. is aware of that, as well as Flip Floppy Foundation. And we saw the differences in the laws and regulations. For example, if I give an example of the ban of the plastic carrier bags. Rwanda did ban the flat carrier bags that are below 60 microns, right? While Kenya did ban flat carrier bags that are below 30 microns. Same to Tanzania. But on single-use plastic, you notice that Rwanda did ban the single-use plastics. Kenya did in protected areas, but in Tanzania it was straws and the thin film plastics that you have on the bottle top of a drink that you have. So there is some there's
disharmony in law.
Yeah, there's disharmony. So what that creates is that if you have porous borders, of course, we normally say in every market.
If we have porous borders, or is it because we have porous borders?
So what I was going to say,
because we have realistic borders.
What I was going to say, coming from the wise wisdom that you've given us this morning, is that in every market there's always a madman. So what that translates is that in a society, you'll always have the good and the not so good.
But let me ask this question. Talking about policies, harmonizing it, putting ink, pen to paper, that I get. Thought has gone into the details, that I get. And a lot of work has gone on. Daktari, Ebenezer, tell me. How then do you convince, or has enough effort been taken to convince the users of this plastic, who are the citizens, as to the benefits? Because people are motivated by benefit. How do you communicate this benefit so that they join you? Because if they do not support the initiative, you can sign as many laws as you like. You can have many meetings where you agree as you like, but you will still have a problem. So, and not just the individuals. How do you convince the member states of the benefits that accrue? Because a lot of these things are also tied to trade. How do you get them on board by them understanding, actually, yes, they may be benefiting, but I benefit this way?
So I think that, Benza and CT, indeed, this is the crux of the issue with respect to how do we promote the highest level of implementation and efficiency in implementation of policies, legislations and regulations. First and foremost, within the context of the East African community, the ownership, the collective leadership, the common purpose is established by this collective engagement of all stakeholders, civil society, private sector, in the development of strategies and policies. It then has many arteries of communication, which include the East African Legislative Assembly, which includes members of parliament. But above all, the need for communities to play a more significant role in the implementation of policies and the promotion of self-regulation becomes absolutely, critical within this context of how we implement many of these initiatives and create that overarching capacity for development. And indeed, within the context of whether it's trade or industrialization or any form of commerce and its use of plastics, the motivation for adaptation and mitigation comes from a sense of a clear perspective of the market. If the market, which is systematic, which consists of policies, legislations, regulations, standards, infrastructure, and so on, invokes that compassion towards innovation and transformation, then that inspires collectively the entire system to actually transition into mitigation and adaptation. And so, with respect, to illustrate, when an industrialist or, for example, a trader wakes up in the morning and he surrounds himself in an ecosystem that deters the use of plastics or is part and parcel of him or her trying to transition from where they are into a more climate-friendly use of material, then, that enables them to invest thoroughly because there's a genuine demand from the market, and at the same time there's an overarching policy and legislation that intertwines their ability to effectively engage. And so this is a priority with respect to a collective leadership, a collective responsibility, and a collective ownership of all policies, legislations, and regulations. After all, we've all developed them in paper, as you said, in ink. But how do we as communities now promote that leadership in a multifaceted way? And I believe that KEPS is doing this tremendously within this context of the business environment. But, this is where the hope is.
My question was perhaps a little unfair. So let me distill it further. How do you convince the politicians to sell this idea effectively? How do you get the politicians, I'm talking about from the leadership within the East African community, and to the leaders who fall in line in the political parties, etc., to the lowest common denominator? Why am I saying this? Most of these wonderful plans and policies that we have often go awry because of the politicians. I know it's a difficult question, but you, in Kepsa.
Yes.
Yes.
Think
Thank
it
you.
through,
Thank you very
and then
much
we
for the
respond to it after the break, right? We want to take a break now. It's coming up to 8:30. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room on SpiceFM, online, SpiceFM KE, YouTube and Facebook, and also on KTN Home. Dr. Kevin Desai, the Principal Secretary for EAC, and Ebenezer Amadi, the Program Manager at the Sustainable Inclusive Business Initiative at KEPSA, are in the studio with us. We are talking about legislation towards plastic pollution management in East Africa. All these conversations. Also, let's remind you about the fast action that is Cypladon effervescent.
Indeed, even as you think about that, Ebenezer, before we come back from the break, it might give a bit of a headache, but I have a solution for you. Cypladon is an effervescent paracetamol that is absorbed 2 times faster. So you can imagine what would happen in 3 minutes if you did this. Faster than ordinary paracetamol. It offers significantly faster pain relief. It's used for relieving headaches, including migraine and tension headaches, period pains, and relieving the fever, aches, and pains of cold and flu. 500 mg is sweetened with aspartame. 1,000 mg is neutral. You can get it at all your good pharmacies near you, as well as Chandarana supermarkets. And remember, even after this, if symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Or maybe akizidi. Muone daktari. 8:30. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
I like listening to you guys. You're the default radio station in my car in the morning. Even the children listen to you guys.
I agree Parliament has failed this country. And I will say it again. We have not done what we should have done.
We know in this country, the Kenya prison sector is one of the most underfunded sector.
The way it is being done and the way we're calling it Huduma number them Makweli is because all records will be there. You know, there are people who are now billionaires with no history as to how they got all these assets.
Yes. Anything that the president does that is not in accord with the constitution is an illegal act. You know, he shouldn't be doing it and should be sitting here and trying to sort of guise it up.
I totally believe live transmission of results and allowing Kenyans to be able to view all these results. I believe that it will be impossible to steal elections.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
Yeah. You're listening to Spice FM.
Dare for fast relief from pounding, throbbing headache? Take Cypladon. The fizz works to relieve pain faster.
Available at all good pharmacies and now at Chandarana supermarkets. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Well, the clouds are up in Nairobi, highs of 28 and lows of 16 today. It's sunny at 17 in Nakuru, highs of 29 and lows of 13. We'll see partly sunny conditions at 16 in Nyeri, highs of 29 and lows of 11. 12 will be the low in Eldoret, where it's sunny at 18 and we realize highs of 27 today. It's now raining in parts of Mombasa at 28, highs of 32 and lows of 26. And we'll see sunny conditions in Malindi at 28, going to highs of 31. Kisumu is sunny at 23, highs of 30 and lows of 19, while at 24, Kakamega is sunny, highs of 32 and lows of 15. Rain showers now in Kampala as well, highs of 29 and lows of 19. And the clouds are thick in Dar es Salaam at 28, highs of 32 and lows of 27. Still continues to rain in Johannesburg at 15, highs of 21, and it's clear in Lagos at 27 with highs of 33. Also see highs of 33 in Kinshasa, where it's partly sunny at 26.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Still continues in major parts of the city this morning in Maritime, inbound and outbound. More outbound traffic than inbound, however, that continues. Coming off of the ICD route, then heading towards that southern bypass, you can use that as an option to get into the city quicker. Langata Road continues, Raila Odinga Way, hot and heavy, bumper to bumper, all the way to the roundabout on Gong Road at the city mortuary, and then leading out towards community. Into the city is where it's taking most of the traffic today. Coming off the Thika Super Highway, as well as Kiambu Road, and we're getting towards the Pangani underpass onto the Globe Cinema overpass. A lot of traffic here and bumper to bumper action happening around Westlands. Red Hill Link Road, guys, use it. It'll help. Talk to us about what may be going wrong. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM. Nairobi.
It continues 25 minutes to 9. This is the Situation Room on Spice FM, online and on KTN Home. My name is Eric Latiff. My co-hosts are CT Muga and Ndu Okoh. Our guests this morning, PS for the East African Community, Dr. Kevin Desai, and Amadi Ebenezer from KEPSA. CT, repeat the question so that now Amadi can respond to it properly.
Well, I've had time to actually rephrase it.
He had prepared an answer for the other one.
I think I need a second dose for the paracetamol. You talked about, and you know, when I listen to your phrase, your tagline, you say sugar and spice and everything nice. Yes. I think they also got the gist of it.
You see, the question that I'm concerned about is this. If you look at the power that the business community has, it is immense. And immense to the point where it influences policy because of the connection that policy has with politicians and politicians have with the business world. But the question I am really asking is, how do we ensure that beyond the commercial interests being looked after, which they usually are with policies, how do we get the mwananchi, as we call them, to get to the point where they join you in supporting this? So it isn't just a narrative that has been brought to you by way of policy, so you have no option but to abide by, but it's something that whose benefit you see and understand, so you support it. Now, I am asking, as KEPSA thinks about the many things they think of, what steps have they taken to ensure that this continuity of thought and process is actually guaranteed so that we get to that happy point where these things we keep talking about at a national level are things that the citizenry actually support? Because if they don't support you, even if they seem to be benign, what they're going to do is they are going to constantly contradict you. You only need to take a case in point of COVID and the mask.
Thank you very much, CT, for the question. I think now that you had time to rephrase it, I've also had some bullets to throw at you.
Please.
Anyway, just kidding. So, the ideal thing that we do is we provide thought leadership in the sector. And as you mentioned, the place where you have influence and interest is a nice space. If you draw the quadrant where you have a matrix of influence and interest, then you always notice that there are stakeholders that you must be keen on in stakeholder management. Now, within the private sector, one of the things that we do is through the public-private dialogue platform, we have conversations with the politicians and the lawmakers, because these are the conversations you have so that they're able to think and table the bills in Parliament. As well as when you're conducting research, so you use evidence to influence that. But also, one of the things that we're also doing, I'm sure if you've been reading your newspapers, you've seen a project by KEPSA that's called Kenya Daima. What Kenya Daima does is reach out to various party leaders, and one of the things that we're driving is ensuring that they commit to peace. And the other aspect that we also have is have conversations on what is on their manifesto. So how better way can you have to sit on the table and have discussions with the politicians and influence what will happen in the government when the government is executing its strategies and of course, its projects. One aspect that is very key that is within the KEPSA's strategy is sustainability, right? And that comes in really well. Under KEPSA, we of course have the Kenya Plastics Pact that I mentioned last time, where the organizations come in and pledge to support the country to move towards from linear to a circular economy. And if you talk about matter is plastics. There are various ways for you to change behavior. And there's one thing that we call behavior change communication, right? So that is another aspect that we also are keen on, to be able to change the mindsets of the community. You see, with the implementation of the single-use plastic ban, what happened is that people began to change their mindset. You will notice, even though you're not in a protected area, and that ban is in protected areas, if you go to one of the shops where you like having your tea or your juice, you will notice that the straws are changing.
Yeah.
Yep.
You'll either have a stainless steel straw
Paper.
or you'll have a paper straw.
Right.
But you're not in a protected area, right? So companies are also beginning to change the way they operate and adoption of innovation. And then you'll also notice that now that we're in studio, all of you have hot drinks, but none of you has the single-use plastic cups, right?
Yep.
But if probably I go back into the archives in your pictures in 5 years ago, probably I'll see Eric with a mug or a cup from a shop. He just walked by to grab his coffee and come early to studio. So there is change that is happening, though not at the rates we would desire. To say that we have dealt with the plastics in totality, but there is some change that is going on in the sector.
Okay.
Now, if I compare to Uganda, for example, they normally sell water in small sachets that they call kavera.
Yeah.
The plastic ones.
Yes, the plastic one.
In Mombasa,
Yeah.
water is also sold in such a manner.
In such a manner.
Yes.
But now you see, if you were used to that, you will generally have some time to adjust to the new norm. Because you're used to buying water for about 5 bob, but now someone is selling you to buy the same at about 20 shillings because the packaging has increased the cost of production and therefore the price, right?
But you see, it tells us that the business community are very tuned in to the needs of the community in this sense. That quantity that you speak of is part of the Kadogo economy, okay? And it is you, the business people, who came up with it. You understood it. Not everybody wants half a kilo of sugar. They're probably happy with 5 teaspoons of sugar and they're willing to buy that. Now, it's this sensitivity and in understanding these needs. That's what I'm actually speaking to, because you already understand it. But when a policy is implemented by way of fiat, you're told, here it is. Fine, people will comply because they fear the consequences. But I'm saying, you, by the way, fit right in. Behavior change communication means you are able to pass on a message that convinces the listener and the consumer that this change is in to their benefit. Yes, exactly.
Even as I hear that, and I hear Dr. Desai, and I hear you, because this is a thing, that we can have all this documentation and policy, and it be wrapped up in policy documentation for years. But if we start to ask ourselves that who are the perpetrators of this pollution, whether we're looking at communities which is made up of individuals or communities made up of businesses that operate with these plastics, they are the ones to whom the message must go. But then they also have to see a benefit of having an environment rid of plastics rather than a fear of what will happen to them if they do not comply. And I think it has to get down to that rudimentary level whereby folks understand that, if we're littering or if we're using or not reusing or if we're not refurbishing, if we're not reducing, then it is to our detriment as a whole. So I'm really looking at and really interested to know what are the practical things. What's the practical communication that is going down to the basic unit of man, of what is actually being done, so that it doesn't seem as if it's just meetings and policies that are taking place.
Thank you. And indeed, this indeed is the crux of the matter. But I think that we need to be quite optimistic, first and foremost, with respect to our collective efforts towards developing the necessary policies, legislations and regulations. And this is very much in in a way which promotes the highest level of goodwill towards this issue. Indeed, the issue with respect to implementation is a critical issue, and I think that where we need to draw inspiration and hope from is, if you look at an industry, for example, why do they use potable water or produce that does not have any aflatoxins in their production? Simply because the market wouldn't tolerate the pollution in water or any kind of health issue with respect to the produce. And subsequently, the entire structure abides within the regulations of policy. Even the machine manufacturer across the globe has to produce a machine that is friendly to the climate systems. And I think that indeed is what needs to be established with respect to a nexus between the producer and indeed, the commerce sector. And indeed, this is a value proposition for this transition, simply because the cost of processing inputs increases if it's polluted, if it's affected by plastics, etc., and so on. And therefore, the value proposition to the commerce sector is that, indeed, by having clean inputs and health, the disease-free inputs into the system, they spend less in order to process, and therefore, the overall profit margins and their sustainability increases. But this needs to be a collective effort where, this is a level playing field, and it requires the collective engagement of all stakeholders in order to create that ecosystem. It requires an ecosystem of inclusive development, and I don't mean just for humanity. I mean for environment, for the preservation of the earth, and so on. And that's where I believe the crux is.
I think the way you've just said it, it's important that we have policies and legislation, because then everything else responds to policy and legislation. And then it also standardizes things. Then there's the other side of the spectrum, which is the consumer, not the consumer is demanding. The consumer is demanding affordability in terms of cost. Then that brings in the manufacturer. Single-use plastics came to address a need. And the need was, it's cheap, it's accessible, I'm done with the use. Okay, it was cheap. Now, when you move away from single-use plastic and now come into these other reusable plastics, you just said it yourself, it introduces the element of higher cost. Now, should there be some sort of encouragement to the industry and to the consumer so that then there's easier adoption of the ban on single-use and going into the circular economy? Should there be that? Because, like you're saying, the manufacturer is responding to market demand. If I come with the same product and I've put up the price by 5 shillings, we are starting to have a different conversation with my consumer. And then somebody else will unscrupulously go behind my back, try and evade the regulations and still reintroduce single-use plastic. And the market will be like, I'm comparing between cost and all, and I'll buy. Should there be some sort of incentives to both sides?
Yes, indeed. Indeed, there has to be incentives. It promotes greater levels of fashion and transformation within the context of outcomes. The incentives start within the policy framework development, where it's no longer about creating mandates, but in promoting flexibility as well as pointing to certain areas of incentive and direction. And I think that needs to carry on all the way downstream, because ultimately it's the incentive of the market which becomes absolutely critical. Within the context of the EAC, the incentive mechanism and framework exists in order to permeate the entire ecosystem. And it's one of the most incredible features, because the incentive, for example, of an industry now today consists of approaching a market of 275 million people. And within this context, the market's big enough for transformation to occur and for us to now take this extremely seriously as far as the value proposition towards sustainability of the entire region. And so then, this awareness creation, this involvement needs to invoke, that action by all stakeholders to promote the necessary adaptation and mitigation. And so the long and short is that the entire framework from, design, development, consensus development, all the way to the implementation structure is accessible. And therefore, what does it take now, and what does it take to be involved and to have that shared responsibility?
And to participate, or even to reward. You mentioned some companies, like you talked of Synergy. Synergy have been doing some work that they've been doing in the low-income areas like Kibera, which is what they have toilets that they produce, that they give out toilets for use. Just tell us what they do.
Really, so what Synergy does is that they have this models of toilets that they give to the communities, and ideally the need there was to reduce open defecation and the flying toilets, so that the low-income areas, sometimes they do not have the ability in terms of financing to either construct a toilet. Sometimes you take things for granted that you think that these things are always available.
Yep.
And to them it's to some of them it's a luxury, because now they don't have access, and when you need to access a toilet, then you need to go and pay, because there's a block that is there. You can go take a shower, I think for 5 bob, and use the washroom again for 5 shillings or 10 shillings. So what happens is that now they are trying to give them the toilets, and then they come and collect the waste, and then they're able to manufacture products out of it. So in that context, then you're ensuring that you reduce the waste that is going into the environment, so you safely collect, treat, and manage, and also then produce, get a product out of it. So that's what they do in terms of increasing access to sanitation.
Right.
Now, should such organizations get some sort of reward from the government, just because you have invested in what the government has not been able to invest? And this is a sewer system, right? But you are providing this service, and at the same time, there's a value that you bring into to the environment. There's a value that you bring into livelihoods of people.
Yeah.
Should they be getting some sort of incentive from government, so that when we have more of such organizations?
So we were having this discussion the other day at Alliance Française with various partners. And we're talking about organizations that are called social enterprises. So social enterprises looks at 2 things. One, it looks at the impact it creates to the community, as well as looks at the profits it makes so that it's able to sustain itself. So the profit does not go back to the shareholders, but it helps them to implement some of the projects. So the question we are asking ourselves, how then do we promote more social enterprises in Kenya to be able to address some of these issues that are emerging in the country. And sometimes we're always very quick to say we need another policy, we need another bill, but to some extent, not all the time. Sometimes you just need to check what we have and what are the gaps, then just revise it. Because you also notice that within that context, you can register a non-governmental organization within the Companies Act as a company limited by guarantee. Right? You can also register an association through the Societies Act. So there are a number of channels that you can use with the available instruments that are there in our current state. But as well, then if you look at the challenges that exist, then we can propose different recommendations. For example, to talking about incentives, and incentives can come in different ways. Does not necessarily have to say that you won't pay anything to the government, because even for government to operate, they also need resources, right? So in that context, yes, there is need to look at that aspects to encourage more of the social enterprises to create impacts to the communities that are marginalized.
The award schemes are useful, but not enough. We see that within the context of EAC, for example, we recognize those industries that do not pollute the environment. For example, the affluent treatment systems, etc., and so on, into rivers, and then ensuring that rivers are left conserved and potable as far as drinking water is concerned. But I think that these recognition systems, as well as award systems by government, is part of the element. Of course, the strategic element is that the consumer also awards and promotes that recognition, and thereby promotes that ability to entrench that policy and legislation, that overarching regulation. So within this context, I think that this requires a reflection in terms of the incentive mechanisms towards progressive policies, which originally were part and parcel of an inclusive development, be encouraged by all stakeholders, and this requires, various leadership schemes within the private sector association, but also and bold statements towards the transformation of their commerce sector towards this progressive climate development capacities. But indeed, it's the consumer too that is involved, and how they're able to emphasize, their choice and their ability to
how they see the value,
instrumental.
and then
Yes,
also then promote that
absolutely.
value. Let's take this quick break so we can say goodbye to the audience on KTN Home. You've been with us since the top of the hour. The conversations continue on SpiceFM around the country. 94.4 in Nairobi, Mombasa it's 87.9, Kisumu 102.5. We're having an issue with our frequency there, but our engineers are on site. 96.0 Nakuru, Kisumu, and 96.7 Eldoret, 90.9 in Nyeri, and Malindi is 97.7. However, we live stream the show every morning on YouTube and Facebook. Our channel and page, SpiceFM KE. It's 4 minutes to 9. So, Ebenezer, as we conclude the conversation this morning, you wanted to add on to something that Dr. Desai had said, and then you give your final closing remarks.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Eric. I think one of the things that you're speaking to and addressing is different aspects that we can contribute to creating change. And CT asked the question, what is the private sector doing to create the change? So with that aspect, there's an aspect of corporate social responsibility, where companies are also coming in to support the communities that they have. We saw during COVID that different members, for example, GM, that is just close to you here, who are giving hand washing points. We saw Bidco giving out the soap that they manufacture. We saw Coke going out also to, ensuring that people have access to sanitation. So the change that is coming then is because different players are playing their role towards streamlining it to the our objective to increase access to sanitation, water, and also deal with the plastics.
Great. Dr. Desai, as you conclude, your closing remarks.
Indeed, I think that we need to make a decision here today after this meeting and this conversation, and I think that two decisions need to be made on the aspects, first and foremost, of how we promote the adaptation and mitigation of efforts towards conservation and climate change, and that means that that it requires us to come up with very creative ideas, collective. To illustrate further, Kenya's progress as far as tree planting is both an adaptation and mitigation effort towards climate change.
Yeah.
But we need a lot more, and these need to come from all stakeholders in view of the fact that the entire policy framework, the legislation framework, and the regulatory framework is self-involving. And so that ability to engage is a key decision here after this conversation. The second is indeed that we recognize that policies, strategies are not there to promote mandates, but are there to promote the inclusive development of flexibility and incentives and the ability to ensure that they point to a better future. And therefore, you need to be involved in all of this.
Thank you very much. Dr. Kevin Desai is a Principal Secretary for East African Community. He's been here in the studio with us alongside Ebenezer Amadi, Program Manager for Sustainable Inclusive Business at the Kenya Private Sector Alliance. We've been talking about the legislation that's required towards plastic pollution management in the East African community and the work and the effort that's being done at government level, at private sector level, and at consumer level towards realizing this goal. Keep it here for more conversations coming up in the next hour. Good morning, it's now 9 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is Newsworm Dennis Oseto. The Nairobi City Water and Sewerage Company is notifying you that a supply interruption from 6 a.m. tomorrow to 6 p.m. on Friday will take place, according to the company's managing director Nahashan M. Guna. The supply interruption was caused by a major leak on the raw water pipeline from Muga water intake along the Chania River to Ngethu Water Treatment Plant. The major leak, according to Nairobi Water, will force the Ngethu Water Treatment Plant to shut down completely. The entire city centre, University of Nairobi main campus, Coca-Cola factory, Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, EPZ at the river, and areas along Mombasa Road, South B, South C, and the environs are among the areas affected by the outage. The entire industrial area and Upper Hill, as well as areas along Juja Road, Mlango Kubwa, Mathare, Eastleigh Air Force Base, Huruma, Kariobangi, Pangani, and Eastleigh will be affected. The 37-year-old man has died while 3 others are in critical condition after consuming illicit alcohol in Queenet, Yosingishu County. According to locals, the 4 were drinking at one of the entertainment joints and started exhibiting pain 4 hours later. The deceased died while receiving treatment at the Queenet dispensary, while the other 3 are being treated at the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital, where they were rushed for treatment. Residents are now accusing security officers of not doing their jobs. Now, over 10,000 students in the Rieda constituency will benefit from a bursary kitty courtesy of the Area Constituency Development Fund. According to the Area Member of Parliament, Utendia Molo, the beneficiaries will benefit from 15.6 million shillings during the current government financial year. Speaking at Rachard Secondary School in West Uyongwa, the legislator said the number of beneficiaries has been growing from 4,200 in 2017 to the current 10,000. He assured Rieda constituency residents that the CDF committee will ensure fairness in the disbursement, adding that no needy student will be left out. And the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Kuriatani is seeking powers from the National Assembly to increase Kenya's public debt ceiling, which he says is not sustainable. Through the proposed amendments to the Public Finance Management Act of 2012, Siasiatani is seeking the removal of the PFM debt ceiling of 9 trillion shillings, which is expected to be breached in the near term amid a widening deficit projected at 846 billion shillings in the financial year 2022-2023. Under the new amendments, Siasiatani proposes for deletion of the ceiling as public debt load has already breached the 55% threshold which has been proposed by Treasury. The new amendment, should it be passed, will give the CS powers to write to Parliament explaining what circumstances have led to the breach of the limit and provide a time-bound remedial plan. Now, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission has put on notice leaders perpetrating hate speech and threatening the security of the country. NCSC Chairperson Samuel Kobia, while calling for dialogue among stakeholders ahead of the August 9th polls, said the Commission, which has embarked on a countrywide civic education and advocacy campaign, will not be intimidated by politicians, with the Commission being criticized for failing to firmly deal with the incitement and hate speech suspects. The chairperson said that this time things will be done differently. During the relaunch of Uwiano Platform for Peace, an initiative aimed towards a free, credible, inclusive and peaceful election, Kobia called for collaboration and dialogue among different agencies in government and non-governmental organizations to ensure peace prevails. And the Intergovernmental Authority on Development says at least 70% of fish caught in Lake Turkana is lost due to harsh temperatures, poor infrastructure and lack of cold storage facilities. IGAD says the lake, which is the 4th largest in the continent and supports communities in Kenya and Ethiopia, has high potential which has not been exploited. This came as it emerged that 20 of the 20 of the 60 species of fish in the water body were targeted by illegal fishermen, with use of undersized nets being the norm. This emerged during a coordination meeting between senior officials from Kenya and Ethiopia over the current status of the fisheries sector around Omo Turkana Basin. Eshete Dejem, IGAD Environmental Program Coordinator, said there is need to address the high levels of post-harvest losses. He noted that the program, apart from supporting fish communities around the basin, would also look into issues of marketing. And President Volodymyr Zelensky has said he no longer is pressing for NATO membership for Ukraine, a delicate issue that was one of Russia's stated reasons for invading its pro-Western neighbor. In another apparent note aimed at placating Moscow, Zelensky said he is open to compromise. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
94.4 Spice FM.
Still in traffic hour, and some of it on Rilo Dinga Way heading out towards Gong Road. Actually, quite a lot of it, and it's bumper to bumper heading in that westerly direction. We're also looking at Gong Road going towards the city, and that is also quite clogged. Coming out of Westlands, that issue still continues. The Thika Superhighway is quite thick with traffic just past Survey, heading out then towards the Pangani underpass. And we're also looking at some traffic coming off Kiambu Road. That hasn't stopped just yet. We're still in traffic hour. Let's see what happens in about half an hour or so. Keep our wits about. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Talk to us there. Text 40127. Let's keep things moving this Wednesday.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
My mic is now. What happens to my mic at such times?
People are touching things they're not supposed to be touching.
7 minutes after 9. Good morning, and thank you very much for keeping it locked on Spice FM since the show started this morning at 6. Or if you're joining us now, welcome. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We're here until the top of the hour. We've been here since morning. We broadcast this show every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Spice FM around the country. Like I gave the frequencies earlier. In Malindi, it's 97.7, and this covers a large part of Kilifi. Nyeri, 90.9. This covers a large part of central Kenya, going all the way into Nanyuki, into Murang'a and other parts. In Nakuru, 96.0 covers a large part as well, which includes Naivasha. Kisumu is 102.5, covers a large part as well. We have an issue there with our frequency. It'll be back soon. Mombasa, 87.9, and Nairobi, 94.4. City has the day's proverb.
Indeed, I do. There is no blindness but the blindness of the heart.
There is no blindness but the blindness of the heart.
Yes.
Yay. The interpretation that you gave in the previous hour, it sounded very good.
You liked it?
Yeah.
You want me to repeat it?
If you're heartless, yes, please do.
You see,
If you're blind, you're
if you're heartless, please repeat.
Yeah, well, let me say, insensitivity is often referred to as heartlessness.
Yes.
Meaning someone has an issue, but you don't seem to empathize, you don't seem to identify with the problem.
Yes.
So if you don't identify, it could be argued that you're blind. Because blindness is associated with not being able to see. And sight here is being labeled as identification or as empathy.
Mm-hmm.
So I ask the question, what do you see with? Do you see with your heart? Do you see with your mind? or do you see with your heart? Eyes, head, heart. What do you see with? Or do you see with all three? And do you notice?
Some people see with their blood. Mimi damu yangu.
Haisikizani na huyu. My blood doesn't get along with your blood.
Damu yangu haikumpenda tu.
The way I saw them, my blood refused. Your blood refused what exactly?
Blood refused. So we spoke about this issue yesterday. The video that was circulating on social media the day before yesterday, Boda Boda riders being captured on video harassing a motorist, a female motorist, sexually assaulting her, raising serious issues. Interior CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i issuing a statement and saying, no, we're going to arrest these people. The police saying we have actually begun the operation to nab the people who are behind this. The president speaking yesterday, commemorating International Women's Day, and saying, we are actually going to conduct a thorough countrywide operation to streamline this business and this sector called the Boda Boda sector. He acknowledged the value of the Boda Boda sector in what it does. I mean, last mile transport connectivity is huge and it's important. That moment when the Cabinet Secretary for Finance went to Parliament and said, Mr. Speaker, sir, we are removing duty on motorcycle parts. I remember I was in the newsroom and watching that, and usually we have all these people who comment and they give their commentaries on what the tax measures are. Some were saying, I'm not sure how this really helps the common mwananchi, because the people who ride motorbikes really ride motorbikes is, what? 3 months, no sooner than
had.
No sooner had than these things. We have now seen Boda Boda. Boda Boda is able to give you that last mile connectivity. You alight from a matatu and you're carrying some mzigo to your homestead, which is across the ridge. Boda Boda. You need something done, you just call your Boda person and they get something for you from the shop. Whether it's medicine that you need urgently, they bring. Now we've also seen it's supporting the really, really fast-growing digital economy that we have, where we have delivery services done using Boda Boda. So it's important. But there are some elements in this industry that have basically just gone rogue and they need to be reined in. And that's what the president was saying. He ordered a crackdown. What did he say?
He did. On all Boda Bodas operating in Nairobi and across the country following Friday's incident. That's what he did, that crackdown. He also said that all motorbikes will be registered. He said, look, we're not targeting small businesses, but we're trying to restore sanity in the sector. Of course, then giving rise to the belief, that it has been riddled with insanity. I want to refer to the video circulating. I quote, "It was disheartening, and it was only one of the incidents shown. I've ordered a crackdown on all Boda Boda operators starting here in Nairobi and moving across the country. I know we are in the busy season of politics and some will say the government is harassing small business owners. There is no such thing." President Kenyatta added that his administration has been at the forefront in supporting the Boda Boda sector, but that should not be seen as being complicit with the criminal elements hiding. He said, riding a Boda Boda is not a license to do drive-by shootings and most definitely for you to strip and remove dignity from our women. We want to support our Boda Bodas, but even these women are our customers, are your customers. Treat them with respect. He called on the sector to weed out the rogue elements of or the government will clamp down on them. He said, we have heard many heroic stories of Boda Bodas who have helped women and girls. We support this, but this is not a license for you and your motorbike by harassing pedestrians and chasing them from pedestrian walkways. He didn't mince his words here. He said, look, you do it amongst yourselves. You know who the rogue elements are. Let's get some regulation here. If you don't do it, we will then come in and clamp down on you. So he's also then giving rise to, the widespread notion that not all Boda Bodas who are operating on these streets are doing so having been properly licensed and registered. So, one, we're going to get rid of that. you're not licensed, you're not registered, we will either have you registered or we will take you out of circulation. Also saying that you guys in the sector, you know who the bad apples are, right? You know who will misbehave, you know who's been prone to this kind of misbehavior over time. We are asking you to help rid the sector of those people. Now, if you do not do it, we then will come in with the long arm of the law and make sure that it is done. These people that you're harassing, man, woman, child, doesn't matter. They are your customers, they're your clients. We've done our best to try and support this sector. There was a time we even reduced the import fees on motorcycles, for example, or at some point reduced what you pay in terms of tax and made it one standard fee. We've done a lot to support it. Now, it does not then give you the license to misbehave. Now, we are giving you the opportunity to, weed out the rogue elements.
Okay.
We'll come in and do it if you don't.
So, when the president ordered a crackdown, what exactly did he order?
So there's two things. The first one was to come in and find out those who have not been registered.
And by register, what do we mean?
Licensure, etc., etc. There's some people who don't have license to be out on the streets.
People
who don't have insurance. People who have not been registered as PSVs, for example, because they are PSVs.
If you look at the private sector, private transport sector, the people you see driving these transport vehicles are not always the owners. In fact, in most cases, they are not. And that includes motorbikes, it includes tuk-tuks.
Taxis.
Just go along that list, okay? So now, by virtue of the fact that these modes of transportation have organizations that bring them together, the issue of management, control, checks and balances is not even something we should be spending such a long time debating about, because they belong to organizations whose responsibility, among other things, is to do this very same thing that we're saying. And then, within the government, there are very many bodies that have been set up to ensure that this very same thing we're saying is done. So, who this time are we going to say drop the ball? Okay? Who has allowed this thing to keep growing and growing and growing and growing until it has gotten to what we now see? Because without a shadow of a doubt, the motorbike has revolutionized transport in this country.
Of course.
And it has provided employment for very many people. However, the negative social impact of motorbikes, and the motorbike is harmless, it has no problem. It's an inanimate object. It's neither good or bad. It's a tool. But the imagery that goes with the motorbike riders,
it's negative at best.
At best, it is extremely negative. Everything that you can think of from a societal perspective that people consider negative, you can lump it at their doorstep.
So could we then say that the president was realizing this? I mean, it took this Friday incident to trigger this realization, all right? So he's realized that there's a problem here. And that's why he's saying, to you. So that includes you, your sector, those who are meant to regulate you, those who are meant to ensure that there is order within the system, whether it is the NTSA, whether it is whomever it is. He's basically saying, here, please make sure that you people are operating within the law and within what we require.
Okay. So there are laws in place.
Yes.
Are the laws sufficient?
Many could argue that
to regulate this sector.
Many could argue that no.
Okay. Basically, I'm just getting stuck on that point. So the president has come out and the president has said, crackdown. The cabinet secretary for interior has said, yes, crackdown. The cabinet secretary for transport has said, yes, crackdown. What exactly does crackdown mean? When John Bishuki said crackdown and regulate the matatu industry, there were specifics. He said, number one, all matatus must be registered as PSV and they must go for regular inspection. Before you get that sticker as PSV, regular inspection.
Yeah.
Number two, there shall be speed governors on every public service vehicle. That is a not negotiable issue. Number three, all drivers and crews working in this shall be registered and shall have a badge.
And a uniform.
Right? Number four, they all must have a uniform. Number 5, every matatu must have a yellow line strip, and on that yellow strip, you must indicate the route that you are operating on. That means that you must apply to operate on a certain route. So if your route is Nairobi Mlolongo, you cannot go Nairobi Kikuyu. Your route is Nairobi Mlolongo. And everybody plus their dog shall know that this matatu is licensed to operate Nairobi Mlolongo, as long as the dog can read.
Right.
Right?
And as we know, all dogs can read.
And of course all dogs can read. All these measures, they were clear. This is what we are saying. They went beyond that. Amos Kimunya came in and said, now, what the next thing we want to do is make sure that every matatu registers into a SACCO. So matatus in a certain route come together, you are under an umbrella organization. And that umbrella organization shall be registered with the government. And when we have an issue with the matatu within an umbrella organization, then we know who to deal with. Okay? SACCOs were introduced. It's all very clear. So when we say there's a crackdown, when there's an accident, we see NTSA saying, this SACCO, matatu from this SACCO. We have actually seen that there's an issue with all the matatus from this SACCO. So the SACCO itself, you
stop operating.
Stop operating. We know how to reach it. There was clear. This is what crackdown meant. This is what regulation and sanitization of this sector meant. In this particular one that is now being touted as, this thing on the crackdown on Boda Bodas, what exactly are we saying? Apart from arresting people, and then you get tired after 1 week, and police collect bribes from them, what exactly are we saying that is going to happen to the Boda Bodas?
Unfortunately, there's nothing new in terms of regulation or licensure that's going to occur because this edict has been given. There is nothing that we see that is going to change. What are we going to say? Because today, okay, let's go 2 weeks before. If a Boda Boda was found on the road, stopped by a police officer, for example, for whatever reason, and they check their papers and they find out these are out of date or whatever, don't you see the process through which they have to go to get it back on track? Yes, it's there. It exists.
Yep.
So what is going to change now as of yesterday when they're saying, get your house in order? Or is there some kind of kumbaya moment that is supposed to happen amongst Boda Bodas where we say, okay, now actually, you know what, guys, this thing that we see of assaulting pedestrians or assaulting people who may have caused an accident has to stop? Because that is what triggered this crackdown. And that's what I'm asking. When we see this happen, because for this incident, this announcement that was made yesterday would not have been made. Abi? It wouldn't. So what is going to change significantly in the sector in terms of registration and licensing and et cetera, that was not in place a week ago on Thursday? What is going to be different? Or are we going to say that because of this crackdown, this bad behavior, this rogue behavior that we see happening across country will then stop? And so I'm having pains trying to reconcile the two. That we say, here's a crackdown. And this crackdown announcement was given because of what unfortunate incidents happened with this young lady Friday. Now, are we going to see a dramatic reduction in this rogue behavior because this crackdown has now been instituted? Are we?
Well,
like
we're
you
not
said,
seeing.
you were driving yesterday, and even with that, you still see them.
Boda Bodas are still behaving the way they were behaving before.
You see, an edict doesn't change behavior.
Exactly.
A pronouncement of this is not going to change behavior.
Especially when it doesn't say this is what we expect going forward.
Now, at 10, when you finish and you're driving out here today, and God forbid, you knock a Boda Boda, because of what was said yesterday, is that crowd mentality law of the jungle going to end if you hit a Boda Boda today and they all want to come and attack you?
If a Boda Boda hits you, do not assume that in all these cases it is you who has caused the accident.
My point is that when something happens to one of them,
but that's it.
The way they rally around with that rogue behavior that we have spoken about, is it going to come to an end because of this crackdown order that was given yesterday? Do you see what I'm asking?
Yeah.
Does it change?
Nope.
And the reason why we saw this crackdown order in the first place is because of the incident that occurred on Friday.
And reacting to public sentiment.
Exactly. So what changes? There's regulation like you've talked about. PSVs have regulation which they follow. There are circles which they are part of. There are those folks who operate within the estate and they already know that they cannot go onto the highway because they do not have their registration for the highway. So they know where to operate. There are rules that govern them already. This behavior, which caused this national outcry between Friday and yesterday, is it going to change because of this crackdown? Or was there an order to make it seem as though we are listening to public outcry and we want to do something about it? What exactly is going to be done that's going to change the situation and stop something like this from happening again?
This is the government playing to the public gallery.
Come on, man.
On a wing scale, Boda Bodas have been known to be used by killers and shooters.
Indeed, criminal activity, which the president mentioned yesterday as well.
Yes, but there is a gentleman one Mr. Shah, who it is reported was a partner of the late Mr. John Mishuki, who was felled by a bullet that came from the gun. Some individuals who were on a motorbike. It isn't the first time one has heard of such a thing. There are people who've been abducted. If you're talking about crimes that have been perpetrated by people using the motorbike, there are many. This was graphic. It was filmed. One could see it. What would have happened if there wasn't documentary evidence and it was just reported that this is what the Boda Boda people did? Would there been a similar outcry? The answer is no. Okay.
It's because you saw it.
Well, when it's reported, you have your imagination to count on. But this one,
it's
you
imprinted
see
in your mind. Exactly.
Yes. And it's something you can relate to. Yesterday you heard my view on this. It hasn't changed. I am contextualizing the activities that I'm seeing. A gang baying for blood, and then individuals within that gang, some lone voice saying, no, do not beat this person, do not do this. But all other people who congregate around this car open that door, and then some go through the activity of really molesting this young person, this young lady. Okay? That lady was scared out of her wits. It is clear when you see that clip. Clearly.
Yep.
Now, did that stop them? No. What stopped them was when a policeman arrived on the scene. Is that not so?
Yes.
Okay. So it means they actually have some respect for the law. I saw another clip, though. This had to do with a lorry that overturned, and it had humanitarian aid.
And folks were lifting the humanitarian aid.
Let us say
for their aid
that the wealth was distributed in at a very efficient and very fast rate. And this one included. It wasn't just a group of people we can say young men. No. Men, women, young, middle-aged, old. Everybody participated in rummaging through and pillaging whatever they found. We've had incidences where tankers have a problem, they have an accident. And then people proceed to what? Pillage this particular oil that's come from there. Unfortunately, we have seen horrible accidents, one place more than another. I can never get to pronounce that word. Shangan one.
Sachangwan.
See, I had the S and Angwa somewhere along the way.
There's a Muchanga somewhere.
Muchanga. Yes. So, man, twice on record, same thing. Somebody goes
same place
with yes,
and
an open flame, and people die. The next time such a thing happens, every time I used to pass by, they used to ask, "What is it about this place that makes it like?" There's even a monument, by the way, that has been set there. Have we learned? The only thing that I'm grateful for is that the oil leak from the Kenya pipeline that happened in Kisumu, one hasn't heard of any incidences, which means it was ring fenced, it was protected. What really are we dealing with, which keeps manifesting itself in this way? When you have an accident, it has been reported. The people who purportedly come to help you, first of all, rob you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
First order of business is look for any valuables, blah, blah,
wallet,
blah.
Yes, rob you.
So then I think it gives then a little bit more weight to this question, is that this crackdown or this order playing to the public gallery, does it really help to solve the problem? And are we throwing everything plus the kitchen sink at a problem which is really not the issue? The problem, if you ask me, is not the registration and licensure of Boda Bodas. It's not the issue. Like you said, they fear the law. They saw the cops. They stopped this thing that they were doing. Had it not for being the police showing up, unspeakable things would have happened to this young woman. Or that you can be sure of, right? We've seen many, many pictures. For example, we saw a few months ago a policeman allegedly being robbed by a Boda Boda that swung by and lifted his phone off his hand. We've seen in different residential areas of Nairobi, somebody goes in, tries to rob a vehicle, Boda Boda comes, snaps them up, they're able to take off, they're able to get away. They're used as getaway vehicles. Is that because they are not registered? Is that because they do not fear the law? Is that because they don't have the right licensing in place? Or is it just bad behavior? Is this crackdown, because that's what you're saying, we have a bigger problem here, and it's not about doing the things that you need to operate, do your business. You'll find out that a lot of these folks have the right papers, they're doing the business in the right manner. But there's a bigger problem here. It's bad behavior. This crackdown is not going to sort out the bad behavior problem.
You know, there's always a story that is told of how Rwanda cured this particular problem. If you've ever been to Rwanda, you will, every motorbike rider has a helmet. When I say every single one. You will not see, it doesn't matter what you do, you will not see even one rider who doesn't have a helmet. And there's also a helmet for
the passenger.
Some people
and
have
there's
gone
only
to,
1 billion passenger.
Yes.
Per Boda Boda.
One.
Some people have gone to great lengths to instill order. Singapore, and maybe would have thought this was radical in nature. Singapore police had it was given to them.
The authority.
You litter, you're whipped. I don't mean whipped, giving a tongue lashing. I mean whipped with a whip. So you think about it once, you say, okay, hold on. Do I want to experience this again? No. Let me keep my garbage to where I'm able to. Let me decide not to jaywalk.
Put it even in your pocket.
The streets, you can lick them.
Yep.
You can lick the streets.
You know, if you've been to Singapore, as you say correctly, the thing that you want to look at first to see if you can see later. Actually, you won't see.
Hard pressed to find it.
Go Musana. Let's take a break at this point. It's 9:30. We want to open up the phone lines for you to participate. 0719-012-600. So the president yesterday ordered a nationwide crackdown on border borders. Do you understand what exactly the president wants to see done? What does this crackdown really entail? Maybe you've also actually seen, maybe you're a Boda Boda rider and you've experienced this. What is this crackdown? What are they doing? What do they hope to achieve? How long is it going to take? What's the end, the picture of success, as CT would ask? How does a picture of success look like? 28 minutes to 10. Talk about Cipladon. Cipladon.
Oh, well done.
Yeah, the manufacturer is called Cipla from India.
Well done.
Okay.
So, do you have a headache? You have an onset of something? Okay. There's a way.
There's always a headache.
There's a way. There's a way that we can get this sorted in twice, half the time that it would take with other paracetamol, right? It's an effervescent paracetamol with faster pain relief. It's a painkiller that is absorbed twice as fast as ordinary paracetamol tablets, thus giving faster relief. So you don't have to hold your head for as long, CT. Therefore, faster pain relief from headaches, fever, period pains, and toothache, and backache even. It's available at all Chandarana supermarkets and all good pharmacies near you. Now, if it continues
to behave abnormally, give it Cipladon.
Cipladon. No.
And then go
seek
see a doctor.
medical advice.
Okay. 27 to 10.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Dare for fast relief from period pain? Take Cipladon. The fizz works to relieve pain faster.
Available at all good pharmacies and now at Chandarana supermarkets. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
SpiceFM is taking you and 4 of your friends to the movies courtesy of everyone's favorite delicious fruit-flavored soda, Fanta and Anga Cinema. All you have to do to win movie tickets for your squad to an exclusive pre-screening of The Batman is to brush up on your Batman movie trivia and join me, Yolanda, and DJ Absolute on Sugar and Spice every weekday from 11 a.m. for your chance at a front row seat to witness cinema history.
There are so many people peddling what is false and that it bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and their agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. You know, they gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog,
He's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort.
Sunny conditions in Nairobi, a bit of cloud here and there, 22, highs of 28 and lows of 16. It's sunny at 21 in Nakuru. 29 will be the high and lows of 13. And we're looking at partly sunny conditions in Nyeri at 19, highs of 29 and lows of 11. At 21, Eldoret is sunny, highs of 27 and lows of 12. In Mombasa, rain in some parts at 30, highs of 32 and lows of 26. Or looking at partly sunny conditions in Malindi at 28, we'll see highs of 31 and lows of 26. It's sunny in Kisumu at 26, highs of 30 and lows of 19. And in Kakamega, mostly sunny at 27. We'll see highs of 33 and lows of 15. The rain keeps coming down in Kampala at 22, highs of 29 and lows of 19, while Dar es Salaam is sunny at 29. It'll go to highs of 32 and lows of 27. It's still raining in Johannesburg at 15, highs of 21, back down to lows of 15. It's also coming down in Lagos at 27. Rain for some time, highs of 33. Mostly cloudy conditions. Rain is beckoning. 33 will be the high and lows of 24 in Kinshasa. Out into early evening Wednesday in Beijing, it's sunny at 17. That'll be today's high, going to lows of 3. And mostly cloudy at 1 degree in Paris. We'll see highs of 15 and lows of 0. Mostly cloudy at 9 in London, highs of 13 and 5 degrees and clear. Inching early into Wednesday in New York. That'll be the high for today, going to lows of 1.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgia.
Getting closer and closer out of traffic hour this morning, and looks to get a little bit better on Mombasa Road. Just that Imar Daima outbound stretch is where we're going to have an issue. And also looking at Langata Road getting a lot better now. Raila Odinga Way started hot and heavy very early and still is the case now. Looking a lot better on Kiambu Road and the Thika Superhighway as well. We're just looking at traffic beyond the Pangani underpass and should fizzle out in no time. Coming off Limuru Road, also looking a lot better now, but that Westlands area still looks really messy, guys. Bumper to bumper traffic in some situations. Let's keep an eye on things through the morning, shall we? And then talk to us through it. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
22 minutes to 10. The conversation continues. 0719-012-600. The president ordered a nationwide crackdown on border borders yesterday. The issue that I have with this is the president just said crackdown, and there's no definition of crackdown. In my opinion, the president should not have ordered a crackdown on border borders. The president should have called his troops to order, starting with the Cabinet Secretary for Interior, who is in charge of the NTSA and the police, and then the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, who obviously we know is in charge of. Okay. Those two, and say, can we have proper, harmonized regulations on this sector, like we've seen in the Matatu sector? So have we seen a change in the matatu sector. You can say, since the introduction of the Michuki rules, there's change in the matatu sector. You're getting into a matatu, you are required to put on a safety belt. You know that. Then the police have now also knowledge of what to enforce. They are asking you, why aren't you wearing a safety belt? Why does this matatu not have a safety belt? This matatu has to be on the road because it has gone through inspection for it to get a renewal of the PSV license. Why at inspection does it have a speed governor? Does it have a safety belt plus others? In this particular sector, what regulations do we have apart from saying obey traffic rules? And if you have a Boda Boda on the road, this Boda Boda must have a number plate. Number plate is obvious. What else? So if you're riding, you need to have a valid riding license. Okay, that's obvious. But what else? Give us the examples of Rwanda, for example.
Well, let's see what's happening in Rwanda, or what has happened over time, right? Nothing is chanced in Rwanda, and they take their social order extremely seriously. So, what have they done to regulate the sector? Each Boda Boda rider and passenger helmet. So this is assuming, though, this is insisting that you have one in the first place. Now, having that helmet means it must be stamped with a unique identification number, and it must be printed on the driver's jacket and the bike as well. So not like you can go borrow Eric's. Unique identifier, your jacket and your bike. The motorcycles are also required by law to have a GPS locator for easy traceability in case any criminal act is committed. So can you see the symbiosis between different departments of government? Okay?
Okay.
Now, the sector is governed through 18 formed cooperatives, which work hand in hand with these things that you're talking about, the traffic police, to enforce discipline and law. The cooperatives ensure that the riders religiously follow the traffic signs without the presence of a traffic officer. So whether it's 2 a.m. and traffic officers have gone to sleep,
follow the law.
Now, the rule of helmets is strictly enforced with both the rider and the passenger dutifully wearing helmets, doesn't matter, with matching gear identification numbers, such as the mobile number engraved on them. Hey. The cyclists are also barred by law from carrying more than 1 pillion, as opposed to here, where the motorcyclists carry as much as 5 passengers.
Yes.
Okay? Another thing that stands out is the requiem for female passengers to sit astride like men. They're also not allowed to take their babies on motorbikes for safety reasons. Now, where here you can find anywhere a motorbike can park.
Anyhowly.
Anyhowly. In Kigali, the city has designated parking stages for riders where they wait for their passengers. You can't just be anywhere.
Not Boda Boda shed sponsored by CDF, blah, 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 honorable so-and-so.
No, please. They are banned from roaming the city scouting for passengers, not roaming around. It is the passengers who walk to the station to get their services.
You don't just hail a Boda bike.
No, please.
And then they turn around and they come for you.
Now, just when you thought it was all good, in the middle of the road, by the way, not seeing CT coming, they just
it doesn't matter. Yes.
No. Now, you thought that was really good. In January, they said, let's take it up a little bit. They mandated all the fleet in motorcycle transport services to migrate to the cashless payment system, requiring all operators to install and use GPS-enabled fare technology that allows automated computation of travel distance and fare settlement.
So they've Uberized the Boda Bodas.
Yes, by government.
What?
So you can't just say it's 250. No. We calculate the fare for you. It's very close to the metered system.
President Kagame didn't just wake up and say crackdown.
No.
There was basically some process.
And there are just as many. There are 30,000 operators in Kigali alone.
Oh, there are many.
Yes.
But they're orderly.
That's the thing.
They are very orderly.
Very much so.
You admire. You
and
don't.
Why do you think that is? Because the government from the get-go was not playing and said, this is the way we're going to do it, man. You want to operate as a Boda Boda in the city and other cities? This is how we're going to do it. You're not going to do it? Ship out.
You know, Rwanda is the only country in this region that has actually done that.
Yep.
Other countries of the East Africa, we never talk about ourselves. Huh?
0719-012-600. Do you think the crackdown that was ordered by President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday on border borders will yield meaningful results in terms of regulating and bringing sanity to this particular sector? Zachary in Nakuru, good morning.
Oh, good morning. And I had to wait for long. But
but you are hearing what is happening in Kigali, right? Now you can contribute with depth of knowledge.
Yeah, first of all, let me tell you that today falls my prescription falls on today.
Huh?
And I'm now have ordered for that quarter of meat on credit though.
The quarter of beef.
Yeah, no, goat. I do goat.
Oh, goat. You don't eat beef.
No. I've been elevated to now that class of, those guys in Central Province who wear cowboys and whatever.
Guy Fafa.
And they love country music. Those are guys who do goat meat. Yeah. Now
You're a coward of the county.
What is that we differ in terms of music taste? Yeah.
Okay.
Especially, let me advise those guys who are trying to dignify that little guy. Yeah. Let me give them caution. If there was any Kikuyu there, let me remind them that in our culture, if you undress a woman, you must now go and see your elders back in the village or even there in town, so that you go through the rites of what we call Wotahekiyo. Okay? I wanted to tell them so, yeah? Because it is a taboo, it is an abomination. And if they don't go through that light, yeah?
Yep.
Right. That taboo is going to follow they're going to follow them up to the fourth generation.
They'll be cast.
It is a taboo, it is a curse. They should actually go and try to pour libation and that is what I'm saying, yeah?
Okay, Zachary. So now, let's talk about the president's order on the crackdown.
Let me say this, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm happy that you have all talked about the clip that was going around where the lorry overturned. And the lorry was reported carrying eatables, that is rice and beans, yeah? I watched that clip 7 times. Tears were coming into my eyes, and I was asking myself, where is our ethics? Who brought these people up? Let me tell you, Mr. Eric, very, very quickly. You hear how I refer to Mwarimandro there. It is because I respect teachers. If there is a person I respect in this world, it's the person called the teacher. Why? These people, and I remember one primary school teacher called, and I wish he could listen, or probably those who are listening inside of Gatodo, refer to, take my regard to that teacher, Mr. Kanyere Kamau from the Getare area. That gentleman actually installed so much discipline, and not through beating actually. He told us, you are not supposed to bypass a paper drop on the ground. Do not drop a banana peeling on the ground. Somebody else could come and slip over it and fall.
So it's about discipline.
He told me, always you have to say thank you. Sorry.
Discipline and good manners. Zachary, I'm rushing you because I need to cut you short. I've got 2 other callers on the line.
Yep.
So Asante, let's go to Anthony in Mombasa. Anthony, good morning.
Good morning to you, Eric.
How are you?
I'm fine, my friend. Long time. I'm just getting you loud and clear, but I'm not contributing because of political issues.
Mheshimiwa, are you still vying?
In fact, I've just been receiving a congratulatory message yesterday that I've been taken unopposed. So I'm the one who...
You're the incoming MCA Ziwa Langombe, Mombasa.
Absolutely, my friend.
Yeah. Let's talk about the president's order.
Now let's go back to the showroom. What I wanted to say, when a child is found with exam irregularities, the entire center is being punished or held, their exam, whatever results are being questioned.
Yes.
When a police officer accidentally kills a civilian person, people rush to IPO and the rest, and the police officer is being intimidated here and there without coming to the ground and ensuring what actually happened. You see? So when a Boda Boda operator dies in the hand of accident, maybe because the vehicle wanted to overlap or overtake or wrong side, that thing is being taken for granted. I told you 1 month ago that I went to bury my brother back in Migori because of a road accident. Do you know what happened? My brother was killed by a lorry, and the lorry was on the wrong side, but nothing has happened since then.
Poleni.
Up to now, something happened. We are not getting the plight, the other side of this story. We don't know the person who was injured by this vehicle, what prompted this thing. You know, they cannot just start reacting when there is nothing which has happened. I want to give you one.
So
clear,
your point, sir, as we finish with you.
Yes, 1 point. If at all we want to correct a situation, let us come back to the reality and know what prompted that matter. And we want to know the other side of the story, the plight of the person who was injured by the vehicle. And another thing, the Boda Boda riders are also facing stiff competition. Juakali, they're bad business situation, they don't have even where to get loans. So those are the frustrations that when they get simple mistake from any other person, they
vent. Thank you, Anthony. We should not condemn them unheard. Ali in Garissa, good morning.
Good morning, my brother and my very good presenter Eric Latifa.
Good morning.
To nisalimie pia Siti Muga na Mama Mdo.
Good morning.
Good morning. First of all, let me be clear. I really condemn that video. Yes. I really felt for that lady. She was sexually harassed, and it is something that all Kenyans should condemn it with the strongest term possible. We should not condemn sexual violence and harassment of ladies, please.
Yes.
Having said that, Eric Latiff, let us not generalize this topic, because remember that was an accident. The lady did knock down a guy. And I think, in my view, what she could have done is that she could have stopped, look the guy, if he was got very hurt, instead of just continuing as if you have done nothing. You know, we should also be sympathetic with other people. Umegonga mtu na wewe unaenda as if hakuna kitu umefanya. Hii ni accident. Pengine hata skull umegonga skull, damu inamwagika, jamaa umemuumiza, yeye anagangana maumivu, wewe unaenda wapi? Where are you going? And you have knocked down someone. Please. Because sometimes in law it is called provocation. You are provoking someone.
I think the point that you're making, Ali, and it's the same point that Anthony was making, is contextualizing the entire situation. So what had happened? Yes. Was there an accident? Yes. Was somebody injured? What happened to the person who was injured? Had there been a conversation? Was the motorist driving away as if to take off? Was the motorist driving away to go and park on the side? All those things are what we need to consider. Ali, Asante, let me hear from two other callers on the line, because we are running close to the top of the hour. Nelson in Mombasa, hello.
Hello, how are you, Eric?
Fine, thank you.
As they have been baptized, unaitwa Latifa.
Yes.
Unaitwa Latifa nowadays, yeah.
Nimeikubali, that's my daughter's name.
Yeah, so what is happening is, first of all, in order for whatever directive that is issued to work, we've got to have systems that work. As long as the systems don't work, then the directives will not be very effective. What happens is, I've heard what the others have said, but with the current system and the behavior of the Boda Boda riders, if you knock one of them, they swarm on you like bees. Without considering who was in the wrong, they just come on you, they punch you, they can even burn your vehicle if you don't. So the safest way is you rush to the nearest maybe police station. if there's no crowd, then you can pick up the motorist and rush him or her to hospital. But then if there's a crowd, then the safest is just to go to the nearest police. Maybe if there's a traffic in front of the traffic police, just report to them and then go to the police station and report so that they can take care of this person on site. But then at the same time, I was talking about whatever you asked, that will this thing work? So if all of us come together and decide that the system, from the judiciary to the people on the ground, that is the policemen on the ground, the traffic and whatever, they don't receive bribes or that sort of thing, then it will work. I think everybody wants this system to work.
Okay. So everybody has to pull their weight. Thank you very much, Nelson.
Everybody, yeah.
Asante.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Rono in Eldoret. Hello.
Hello, good morning to you, good people.
Good morning, Rono.
As much as I sympathize with my sister having gone through such an experience, I think we need to contextualize this, as you have rightly put it, and look at it as a societal issue. The mothers and the girls and the other women who are being shot dead in Elgeyo Marakwet are as good human beings as this lady. And just because she could afford to get herself by dint of accidents on a viral video, we are now demonizing this Boda Boda problem. It's not only a Boda Boda problem, it's all of us.
It's a societal issue.
It's a societal issue.
Okay.
Let us reevaluate our appreciation of our values and see everybody as a human being who has issues which need to be addressed.
Kabisa. Thank you, Rono.
Thank you too.
Finally, let's hear from Peter in Roiro. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Peter.
All right. So my contribution will be from a political angle point of view. In March 2019, of course, the Minister for Interior had created this task force to find out what are the challenges of this industry, and of course propose solutions to it. That task force report, we've not been able to see it. I don't know why, but I tend to think that there has been a mesh of issues since the introduction of the Boda Boda trade in the mid 2000s with politics. And this I mean is that the political will that we had, for instance, in dealing with the Matatu menace, the late John Mishuki dealt with very effectively, has not been there in dealing with the Boda Boda menace. So, like some contributors I had on national television yesterday, and this was the chairman of the Boda Boda Association, he was very clear about the nexus between the organization and the traffic police, that their relationship is actually non-existent, is one that is essentially meant to be unfair to them rather than to facilitate them. So then you find now, with the mix with the politics angle, you find now this feeling from these people that we are a bunch of untouchables. Yeah. And then this permeates now even to this other, nasty behavior that we saw the other day. So I want to believe that if the Minister of Interior and his colleagues, in the same way that they are dealing with other issues with that gusto, then they should be able to show how they can deal with this problem. Like our small neighbors here in Rwanda.
Yeah, have a proper program.
Some order to this. Yes, so that we don't have this reaction, because now the president was reacting to something, but they have had time to deal with it for more than a decade.
That's true. Thank you very much, Peter. Have a good day as well. And thank you for all the contributions. There's work that needs to be done by CS Matiang'i, the NTSA, CS for transport. And they've got to do that job. Arresting people and filling them up in police cells now until the weekend is just, what do you call it, Ndu? It's like applying just bandage.
Band-aid on a
Just a band-aid on a,
hemorrhage.
yeah. So let's conclude today's conversation. Ati, Sipladon, before City tells us about the proverb.
Sipladon, 2 times faster than your regular paracetamol. So you're going to go through today feeling that tension, headache, migraine, backache, cramps here and there. Sipladon can sort, like, see now what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like those things now that you're feeling.
Yeah.
2 times faster. Dunk it in some water. It's effervescent. It'll work really quickly. Get it at all your good pharmacies and your Chandarana supermarkets. And if you're still feeling like this, cranky,
See a doctor. Dr. Muga, the proverb.
There is no blindness by the blindness of the heart.
love truly is blind.
So we're done with North Africa. From tomorrow we come sub-Saharan.
Actually, I won't get there first. I'll move to the northwestern countries. I'll look at Mauritania or one such country that is in that region.
Sawa.
Yes.
Thank you for tuning in. Join us again tomorrow morning. Have a lovely day. It's now 10 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is Newswire. I'm Dan.